Greetings, mortals, and welcome. Please present your tickets for validation. Thank you. Your existence has been acknowledged, and you have been granted access every Thursday and Friday. You will be accompanying your guides, Krista and Brandy, along with a world-renowned guest. They will be exploring an intriguing tendril of what humans refer to as reality each week, as they strive to advance you further down the path to the truths of your physical earth and what lies on the other side. Remember to please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times, and do not exit until the craft has come to a complete stop.
Hey everybody, welcome. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Thank you, Amber. What a way to get it started.
Thank you. Great way to get started. We appreciate that. Appreciate you very much so.
I'm trying to say hi to everybody in chat, and it's like they're just popping in, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I got to start this show.
Right. There we go.
So everyone I missed, I'll be saying hi to you throughout the show, but hey.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people already in chat. There's too many to go back and catch everybody.
Right.
But we do appreciate everybody watching and tuning in to us on this Thursday night.
Absolutely. It's been, it's been a long week again. I don't know what's going on. It's like these weeks are just dragging. I guess they're just going to drag until we get, to Memorial Day and at least have a 3-day weekend or something.
There you go. I'm ready for that already.
I know. We're waiting for the next holiday.
Well, it's supposed to cool off here tomorrow. We got some storms going through. We actually got one coming in now. I can see the lightning, but it's supposed to cool down for the weekend, but then be back up in the 70s and 80s next week. So
I know there's one supposed to be hitting here in about an hour and a half. So let's see if we lose power. I'm all charged up. So even if we lose power, I'll be doing it in candlelight.
There you go. That works.
Hey, Barton.
Hey, Bart. Let's see here. Let's talk about this real quick.
Okay, yeah. This, let's just talk about tomorrow's show real quick. We have Jessica Potter, who is the mermaid psychic. She's going to be here tomorrow with her friend, Rachel Marie, and it is going to be a good show. It is going to be a really good show. Also, I just want to put this out there that Jessica has and still does work on cold cases and all kinds of things.
Yeah, she does a lot of missing person cases.
Right. So, I mean, she's a very interesting person, so make sure you tune in. But this is our event on May 18th to the wee early morning hours of the 19th. It's at Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois. We're going to have speakers throughout the afternoon. We're going to feed you, and then we're going to ghost hunt. And let me tell you, we're going to have a blast, just a blast doing this. You can get your tickets online at Eventbrite. All you do is look up Blondes and Booze, and it should be the first thing that pops up when you get there.
Awesome. Yep.
But don't forget, we have Robin Terry, who's the owner of Ashmore Estates. Who, to me, he's one of the who's who in the paranormal community. Yeah. So you gotta, he's gonna have a lot to say. We have Josh Hurd, the owner of Malvern Manor, which we also hold events at, and he's another one that is a who's who in the paranormal community. He's going to be speaking also. Our friend Paul Anthony from Paranormal Among Us is going to be there, and Letitia Nunnelly. We have talked her into coming with us.
Yeah.
So,
we sure have.
We are excited about this.
We are. And then real quick, we'll talk about this one real quick.
All right. This is June 7th and 8th. Well, more or less the 8th. We are having a conference at the Anniston Performing Arts Center. It's being put on by Anita Collier. And it's in, like I said, at the Performing Arts Center there in Anniston. It's going to be awesome because it's Texas Front Porch meets Brotherhood of the Wolf. It's going to be so exciting for the whole day. So you get to meet a lot of your favorite podcasters and storytellers, authors, and documentary makers. It's going to be great. We have Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Martin Groves, Greg Ogles, Jason McLean, of course, us Blondes and Booze, Daryl Denton, Barton Nunnelly, and MC for the day, Tex Weston. So just get your tickets online at BamaBigfootConference.com. Like I said, tickets are very cheap. They're $30 online and $35 at the door. So we have plenty of room. Friday night, we're having a dinner there in Anniston at the Western Sizzlin'. The room that we have reserved, the seats are already taken. But if you want to come, hey, get yourself a seat in the restaurant and have your dinner. Come mingle. We won't turn anybody away.
Nope, absolutely. All right. I'm going to bring Josh up. I seen he just got in. And hey, how are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to go up and bring Eric up. Hey.
Hey, Eric. It's nice to have you. It's Eric's first time here. God bless
What's going
him.
on, man?
Hey, how you doing, Josh?
Good.
Right on, man. Staying busy.
Yeah, I'm trying to get something work related out of the way so they don't bother me. There it goes. All right. I had to text Scorpion and let him know what he was doing for the next 2 days because we've had a lot of guards having some serious health problems lately.
Oh.
And one of my guards says he thinks it's the brujeria. But who knows, man? I mean,
we've talked about this, that the strange things have been happening. Now it's going on a month now where, like I said, we talked about people passing away and all these illnesses that are popping up. And this is just more of it. It's strange.
Yeah. Well, Eric, you're no stranger to all of this. No stranger to the strange. Eric, he lives close to me, so.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we're predisposed to it because of our backgrounds or our location, but it just seems like you and I both have had some weird experiences, and we share a lot of the same background and history in the area. I mean, a lot of the same spots I do, and I mean, it's just filled. I don't think people understand how it's literally kind of like Skinwalker Ranch on steroids here, and I can elaborate on that here. If you want me to get started already, I can. I don't know if you guys are still doing
anytime.
Let's just your sound is a little bit low, though. I think your sound might be, at least it's not coming through real loud on my end.
Let me see if I can turn it up a little bit.
Turn it up a little bit.
How about that? Is that a little better?
Yeah, there you go. You can give everybody a little bit of background of who you are, what you do, and how we know each other,
Yeah, for sure. Eric Palacios. I'm from Central Texas, Williamson County. I'm a filmmaker, documentarian, investigative journalist. I've been working in the, paranormal subject for, I want to say since about 2018, when I started noticing a lot of weird stuff, more than usual, taking place in my backyard of the Brushy Creek area of Central Texas. And after diving into this, kind of studying it, asking people around, I didn't realize what I was doing was going to turn into a documentary. I thought it was going to be, just an investigation of some sort, but there was so much information, and where it led to was just somewhere that I wasn't even expecting to go to. And it ended up packaging it together and making it a documentary just to kind of express to the people how weird this place is, because I don't think you'd be able to explain that in a book form or any type of way like that. So I made my documentary after about 2.5 years of research and video production and everything like that. And it's now available on streaming platforms like Tubi and Amazon Prime. It's called The Beast of Brushy Creek. And I take you into the backyard, the Central Texas area of the Brushy Creek, where I know Josh knows this, but it's really an ancient creek. It's kind of like a mini Grand Canyon. It stretches pretty much the length of the eclipse that happened in Texas. It almost follows that same path. It goes all the way from San Antonio, stretches all the way up to about Dallas. And in between, there's a lot of creeks, caverns, limestone caves, aquifers, Swiss cheese out there. It really is. And aside from all the paranormal stuff, there's a lot of weird historic stuff in general. Like in the 1970s, the oldest complete skeleton was found right along the Brushy Creek in Leander. And it was about 13,000 years old, pre-Clovis, I believe. So that's like finding that in Texas. That's like that's stuff you find in Africa and Europe and things like that. But
Yeah.
and at the time, they said it was 13,000 years old. That's back in the 70s when carbon dating wasn't as efficient as it is now. So it could be up to 19,000, possibly even 20,000 years old. They haven't retested it. A lot of people are wanting that, but they haven't retested it. But that goes to show you people have been in this area for a really long time. I mean, not only that, but when they were constructing I-35 right along Brushy Creek here in my area, they found an ancient Roman coin at the bottom of a Native American burial mound.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's really only a couple of ways to explain that. And so they took the artifact to the University of Texas, and two professors pretty much argued about it. One of them was an intellectual from out of state, and he was a new professor there. And he thought his assumption was that a guy from World War II had some spoils of war that he was bringing home. He was walking along Brushy Creek, dropped a coin, and a rodent grabbed it and took it and burrowed underneath the ground with it. That's his explanation. I don't know about all that. I mean, that's a little.
Well, I guess
much.
if you want to explain it away, there you go.
Mhm.
Explanations get as
Exactly.
ridiculous, more ridiculous than the obvious. They'll do anything to explain it away.
Well, the
Yeah.
terrible thing was his colleague, the other professor, knew the person that found the Roman coin. They had grown up together in Georgetown. They studied under the same person, relic hunting and arrowhead hunting. They studied under the same person. So he's like, oh, I know that guy. There's no way, whatever, he would have hoaxed it or faked it or whatever. He believed 100% its authenticity. And we really never got an answer to whether it was authentic or not. So that kind of goes to show you. And there's a long lineage of Roman artifacts being found in Texas. I mean, off the coast of Galveston, they found some Roman shipwrecks. And they said that they said that they floated all the way from Rome to the Gulf of Mexico off Galveston. I mean, really give these people a little more credit, and it's and then we also hear about Rockwall, which is a little bit northwest of us, which people say that there is a Roman wall that's been constructed there. And in the 60s, they actually did an excavation and they found a corner of this wall. But unfortunately, with all the floods and all the aquifers, they haven't really been able to do much more excavations in that area. But I mean, that just kind of goes to show you this area is really old and strange, and it's had inhabitation for a really long time. And I'm forgetting probably one of the weirdest ones was that in 2014, about 50 feet from my backyard that I grew up when I was a kid, playing soccer and everything in that backyard, they found 3 ancient Native American bodies there while they were working on a road. This is right, 50 feet away from where we'd be playing and everything like that.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we have no idea how old those people were, what part of the tribe. We have no information on that. Because in Texas, we have a law that allows the construction companies to hire their own archaeologists or anthropologists. So a lot of times they'll hire someone that's kind of in favor of the construction taking place, and they'll say, oh, yeah, nothing to see here, happens all the time. Just go ahead and build over it. So it's really unfortunate because, I mean, just north of us, we have the 13,000-year-old skeleton that was found. So who knows? These could have been right around that same time period. And from what I understand, they found these people buried in a really strange set of circumstances. They were all buried standing up, like they were kind of standing up. They weren't laid flat like that. I believe it was a young person and then 2 older adults, and they said that they were of high stature. So that's really all the information we had. I know the Texas State University has those bones, and I've been trying to get information on that since I started investigating, but unfortunately I'm just kind of running dry. And but again, that goes to show you the how long people have been in the area. And
Right.
and that, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and how like crazy it is, there's so much going on in one area.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it goes really, really deep. There was I kind of lost my train of thought there. Well, I mean, we're talking about like some of the ancient people that were there. We know the Tonkawa tribe settled in the Brushy Creek area. They called the Brushy Creek Takachwe Puetsu, which literally translates to the land of the good water. This place was their paradise on earth. They lived here. They did everything here for thousands of years. And they were a really strange tribe. They didn't really associate with the other tribes in the area, the Comanches. And, they were kind of stuck to themselves. They covered themselves in full body tattoos, which is really strange when you think about Native Americans. That's more of a Pacific Islander thing you would see. So that's really strange. And they also, every year, they would have a celebration to celebrate their deity, which was a giant wolf. So they would dress in pelts along the Brushy Creek and celebrate for 3 days this giant wolf deity. And they worshiped the wolf because the wolf was a hunter. And that symbolized the Tonkawa tribe as best as possible, because they were not settlers. They were not farmers. They were hunters. They were gatherers. They never wanted to hunt. They never wanted to farm or agriculture or anything like that. But unfortunately, with the Anglo settlers came into the area and forced them into Oklahoma. Now they're actually in Oklahoma. Brushy Creek was their hub before all this happened. But they moved to Oklahoma, and it's really unfortunate because they were forced to take up farming and other agricultures like that. But yeah, no, that goes to show you the people they were here. They were also kind of a little strange, and we really have not much information on them, and that's kind of unfortunate, But I know in 2022, the city of Round Rock here actually nominated them as the Tonkawa tribe as one of the founding heroes of the city here, which is kind of amazing. They'd actually been trying to do that for a long time. And I actually had the gentleman who was involved in that, Blaine Conklin, who was running for judge at the time. He was in my documentary. And I think he's probably one of the best, people to get information about the Tonkawa tribe, because again, he was part of getting them recognized by the city here. The city kind of didn't want to do it because there's a lot of bad media that was publicized. That was kind of part of getting them out of the area. They were like, oh, they were cannibals, they were savages. And unfortunately, they did that with a lot of other tribes that were forced out. But the way they practiced cannibalism was kind of the way that people would ingest bread or something like the blood of Christ. That's the way that's the way they would practice it. But people consider that cannibalism, and it's really unfair because there's other religions that do something similar, and it's not considered cannibalism; it's considered a ritual. So it's all
Well, one of the problems with that is that there were a lot of weird tribes in the area, considering the Kiowa. That was another one that they had weird deities that they worshipped, and they would make tattoos, but they would cover themselves on their wrists and their ankles. It was weird. And the way that they did it was they used ash. But one of the things that the Tonkawa did was they would use whenever someone would die, they would ingest the ash, which is part of the cannibalism.
I've heard this.
They used that ash as a sacred tattoo, and so they would keep track of their lineage supposedly on their backs, and it would be all over, and it would wrap around, And the older you got, the more tattoos you got, and so it was a very weird, sort of almost like you said, Eric, the Polynesians did that.
Exactly.
And having lived in this area, Eric and I are both pretty much well read on these subjects, because me and Eric have talked for hours about this stuff because we
Right.
too, so we know the history of this stuff. And
Wow.
so the Karankawas were the actual cannibals. They lived on the coast.
Yes. Yep.
And so people would get Karankawa because they did have a common ancestor, the Sayabolan. But those people were so far back that nobody really knows a whole lot about them. But there is evidence that they were cannibals, and that they actually did. They found like skeletons and things that were carved into. But the Karankawas were the main cannibals. The Tonkawas were literally the enemy of the Comanche, which is everybody was the enemy of the Comanche. And the Comanche, one of the stipulations for peace was that the Anglos would move the Tonkawas out of the area, which essentially removed one of their biggest allies, because they were relatively peaceful, considering that some of the Apaches that lived further down to the south and to the west were extremely violent. And the Spaniards and Mexicans had their hands full with them, whereas the Tonkawas really didn't cause any problems. Like Eric said, they kind of just hung to themselves. And they were also used as trackers by the early Texans or the Tejanos. And so they were despised by the Comanches. And some of that propaganda, I think, came from some of the Mexican settlers that had some issues with the Tonkawas. But in exchange for peace with the Comanches, they kind of said, hey, that's the bad guy. And the Comanches were like, yes, that's the bad guy. And so then they kind of got removed. But that effectively removed one of their buffers, really. And then the Tejanos were at the mercy of the Comanches. But the Comanches weren't stupid. The Tonkawas held their own, and they held that region for a long time against some pretty heavy opponents, including the Comanches. But the Comanches were too nomadic. They didn't settle down in one area, and they followed the game. So if the game left, the only problem with that was where the Comanches set up camp. That's not the main force. I mean, that would be where the women and children with a small garrison. The rest of them were roaming around somewhere in the area. And if you came across a scouting party, which could range anywhere from 5 to 50 people, there's no telling what could happen, and they would probably attack you because you were considered an Apache, which is a Comanche word that just means enemy. So the Tonkawas were called Apaches too, but they never called themselves that. That would be like calling yourself a dickhead. So you'd be like, I'm a dickhead. Right? No, it's not really what you are. You're not going to call yourself that because, I mean, who goes around and introduces themselves as I am? So that's interesting. Me and Eric have both talked a lot about this stuff, and it's very interesting and compelling, the history of this.
Oh, I love talking Texas history. I could do it for hours, and I have done it for hours
too.
now. I love it. I love it. But no, going back to some of the Tonkawa tribe stuff, so they were, again, another one of their weird oddities was they didn't use bow and arrows as much. They used an atlatl, which is something you would find like Aboriginal tribes use and stuff like that. So it's like, whoa, they're kind of all over the place. And they use an atlatl. And now a lot of people might kind of tiptoe into the Bigfoot subject a little bit here. A lot of people say tree structures and tree signs are part of Bigfoot communications or, associated with Bigfoot. We know for a fact that the Tonkawa used tree signs. That's a fact, 100%. There's trees along the Brushy Creek that are bent certain ways. And there's a book that was written. It's actually called Takachwe Puetsu, The Land of Good Water. And there it explains where and what these tree structures mean. So trees that are bent in a certain way are pointing to springs. That's one of the things they have. It's if you see it pointing a certain way, it's pointing to a spring. If it has a bow in it, then that means you're in like unfriendly territory. They would also tie feathers to trees. They would use honey to stick feathers and other things on trees to symbolize where you could find food or other things of that nature. So we know 100% that the natives, the ancient people of this area, have been using tree structures for a long time, and there's still signs of that right here along the Brushy Creek. So, I mean, there's an argument for that. I'll say that. I'll just say that, put that out there. It's definitely a real thing. But in one of the Texas Rangers books, I think it's the first book the Texas Rangers wrote. They hated coming to the Brushy Creek. It's in there. There's a Battle of Brushy Creek that's in that. It's in the book. And they talk about how the Brushy Creek is just crawling with Native Americans at this time. It's just so thick and brush. There's so many caves for people to hide and jump out. They detested coming to the Brushy Creek area. But that story is really interesting because they actually were able to save a sister and her brother from a tribe that had kidnapped them and everything like that. But again, you just hear these stories. It's funny when they're talking about it in there because it's a dialogue between two soldiers, and they're just like, "Oh my God, Brushy Creek? Are you kidding me? Like we got to go back through that area. It's crawling with, Comanches and Tonkawa and stuff like that." It's kind of funny when you read it, but no, yeah. Again, I love talking about the. You have to know the history of something to kind of go forward. I think it's to kind of affiliate that with other stuff taking place. It's been here, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I was going to pose to you that you could answer for the audience, and I think this is very interesting. You did a documentary, The Beasts of Brushy Creek, right? And
right.
Do you have another one coming out? Something new?
Yeah, the one it's actually behind me now, Expedition Brushy Creek. It's ready for streaming platforms. My other documentary, The Legend of Harryman Road, it's on my YouTube channel. It's been picked up for like a year, and they haven't dropped it. So hopefully, I don't have that same issue with this one. But if that happens, I'm going to end up dropping it on my YouTube anyways. But Expedition Brushy Creek, I'm actually able to go into the areas where I myself had an encounter. I had an encounter in 2011 along the Brushy Creek, which 2011 was actually Texas' worst drought in history. And I think that might have had something to do with why I had my encounter there. And I think 2022 was the second worst drought we had in Texas history. So a lot of the area kind of looked similar to when I had my first encounter. So I was able to go to where that was and film in the area. And yeah, we found it and it looks pretty much the same. And I was able to go, this is another weird thing, the Harryman Road, which we haven't talked about the Harryman Road. The Harryman Road is a road that goes along the Brushy Creek. It's had sightings since the 1800s taking place there.
Wow.
And I know a lot of people know about the East Texas stuff taking place, but I mean, it's arguable that we've had sightings for longer here in Central Texas. The Bear Man, the Legend of Harryman Road. So the legend of the Harryman Road is that a family, this is the legend, the family of settlers were traveling through the area on the Chisholm Trail, which was where they would take cattle up to Montana and the ranches. And one of the kids was a boy. He fell out of the wagon and the family left him. They didn't realize, and he kind of grew up wild and feral out there, like a feral human. That's the legend we grew up with in Round Rock. You hear about this in school and, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had my encounter and started doing a little research, I wanted to know if there was actually some validity behind the Legend of Harryman Road.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I was able to find a book that was written by the local postmaster in the area. And in the book, he goes, there's a lot of rumors about how Harryman Road got its name. I'm going to tell you exactly how it got it. And he commences to tell a story about these group of kids that were hanging out in 1966 off of Harryman Road. And they're all hanging out there. He names the boys. One of the boys is Shorty Caldwell, who was actually a star football quarterback for Round Rock High School at the time. So they're all hanging out there, and they're getting ready to go home. It's around midnight. And Shorty ends up getting stuck out there. His car won't start, whatever. And everybody else leaves, and he's forced to walk back to Round Rock. And on his walk back, he claims that a wild hairy man jumped out onto the road and chased him back to Round Rock. Next day he comes to school, tells the story. It catches like wildfire. Everybody's talking about it, and it's all over everywhere. A couple of days later, there's a guy who's opening a store right off of that road, and he wants to get some stationery. So he goes to the post office and says, hey, I'm interested in getting some stationery. What's the name of this road or whatever? And he goes, well, it doesn't have an official name, but everybody calls it Harryman Road. And he tells us the guy, and the guy kind of starts laughing, and he's like, I love it. So he goes down to the courthouse or whatever, and he comes back, and he has a thing saying, his address and Harryman Road. That's the first instance of this road being called Harryman Road officially. And that's a fact. That's undisputable. We know this road was named because of a possible Bigfoot sighting. That's a fact. Undisputable. And the crazy thing is, a lot of the locals in the area fought against this. They did not want that road named Harryman Road. And in the book, it even says that there were people like C.D. Folks, who's a very famous individual in the area. There's actually a school named C.D. Folks. He said, he literally tells the people in there, you're treading on hollow ground. You cannot name it this. And it's just all kind of weird and creepy they're a little ominous about what they're saying. Don't name it this. Harryman Road is full of caves, sinkholes, gigantic caves. In my documentary, Beasts of Brushy Creek, I'm walking out there with a camera, hidden camera, I guess, and I'm talking to the construction workers out there. And I say, hey, have you guys heard of anything about this road? You hear all this time. And then one guy's like, he's like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, well, that guy said he saw a big shadow one time behind a tree. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I go talk to this guy, and this guy starts telling me about these 3 giant caves they found in the area. I was able to find one of them. It's just a gigantic pit. It's huge. We couldn't see the bottom of it. And then there was another one that I wasn't able to find where he said he actually saw deer coming in and out of it.
Wow.
And you're talking about deer, like that's a big critter to be coming in and out of yeah. And unfortunately, like I said, I wasn't able to find that one, just too much brush and thickness. And when you're out there, you've got to be really careful because, again, I said sinkholes. We have sinkholes pop up every year. In 2018, we had a sinkhole that happened under a neighborhood in Brushy Creek. It almost collapsed the house. I want to say it went about 26 chambers deep. They never found the end of it. Just kept going and going. There's an awesome video on YouTube about the guys when they first go in there and they come out and the guy's like, there's a breeze down there. And that if there's a breeze down there, it's like, geez, how much airflow out? Was this like a tunnel or what? So they also found bones down there. They did find bones in that video. They talk about finding bones down there of what we don't know. But it just goes to show you that there's just so many caves, caverns. Researching the area, I found a document from the University of Texas Spelunking Group, and it's from 1967. This is from 1967. They're estimating that Williamson County, which is the county I live in, has somewhere between 300 to 3,000 undiscovered caves. That's a big chunk right there.
Wow.
Absolutely. And so they actually were studying some of these caves, and they've documented some. We have some that are like Goatman's Cave. We've got some that are like some really weird names in this document. And they've tested a few of them. One of them, it's in my area, was called the Blowing Cave. And the reason they called this the Blowing Cave was because there was so much air coming out of it, you'd be able to put a 2x4 at the entrance of this cave, and it gets shot out like a gun, like that much pressure. And so the university, it's insane. The university went out there and they did some research. They took some measurements and stuff, and they were really puzzled because they said when they got their analysis back that what's happening is there's a gigantic chamber beneath this smaller chamber that's forcing up a lot of air. And with their calculations, they're saying that bottom chamber would be the size of like a football stadium. It's gigantic. They were thinking that their instruments were incorrect. So they wanted to go back and retest it, but they never did, unfortunately. So we have no idea,
Wow.
Is there something that large? And I mean, Josh knows this. We have the Inner Space Caverns north in Georgetown. We've got the Longhorn Caverns down by New Braunfels area. And I mean, those are gigantic cavern systems in themselves. To think, is it possible that somewhere deep underground they could connect? Now, Longhorn Cavern, they recently went, I want to say they went 4 miles underground, okay? And they found, all the way down there, they found bones of cats, prehistoric cats that were down there. And they're like, how the heck did these cats make it 4 miles, back here without any light or anything? It's really strange. But again, it's just part of the weird, creepy, strange history of the Brushy Creek. And one of those documents of the caves in the area, they talk about a cave that has an ancient rope that's hanging from it. And to me, that's just like, oh my God, that's so interesting.
Right.
Just a rope, like, what is that made out of? Who put that there? It's just so many questions. But I was actually in the documentary, I was actually able to find a cave. I didn't find it. What had happened was that it's all really strange. A buddy had sent me this video of his brother discovering this cave near the Brushy Creek area. And it's really creepy and crazy. I have the original video. So they're literally digging this thing out that's been buried. It's got like branches on top of it. Someone tried to cover this up. They're digging it out, and they're terrified as they're digging this out because they find a gigantic, it's about 5 foot, maybe about 4.5 feet tall, stone face, a gigantic stone face, and a huge metal steel door attached to this cavern.
Wow.
And you're like, what the, explaining it really doesn't do it justice. You got to see it. It's really creepy. But doing the investigation, I found that door is a Mosin door. Mosin was a vault company. They went bankrupt in like the 40s. That door is able to withstand a nuclear blast. It's a 1,300-pound steel door. The way it got down into that area makes no sense. The gigantic face that's carved onto the wall, stone face, that makes no sense about it. So I've shown that to several people, and they're nothing good happened in that area. I'll just say that.
Wow.
So I went down there with my friend David, and we never found the end of it. It was just a maze of little nooks and crannies that just kept going and going.
So
And,
you're, real quick, your documentary, everybody's been talking about it in chat. Where can they find that?
It's on it's on Tubi or Amazon Prime. You can watch it on Tubi or Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It's also on my channel too. So wherever you guys want to watch it.
Okay.
And I mean, again, like I said, I was really just kind of open. I wasn't going in any direction. I was just having people send me information and following up on it. And this was one of those weird cases. The guy didn't give me the location of this cave. He just said it's in this area. My brother doesn't want to go back there. And so it took me about 2 weeks to find it with some GPS and stuff. We were able to find it. And it was just incredibly creepy. And recently I've tried to go back, but unfortunately, Josh probably knows about this. as we're coming into the area, we start noticing before they weren't there. Now they were purple fence posts. And if you guys know about the purple fence post, that means
here in Texas, that means
go the other way.
Yep, no trespassing.
Don't even try it. Just turn around. Don't even try it. So when we saw those, it really scared us, and we just turned around, and we didn't even want to attempt it.
That's one of the reasons why you kind of have to be a little bit vague on what some of the when you tell someone's encounter, you know, whether they say, hey, use my name or don't use my name. I usually go with first names, and I don't give them location because they are everywhere in Texas, everywhere.
Oh my God!
You walk onto somebody's land. I mean, and there's a purple post there. They may shoot and not, well, probably will and not ask questions.
They will.
Yeah.
That's happened to a lot of different people I know, man. I know a guy that he's like the guy that I saw the dog man with when I was 15. He was with a girl years ago, and he pulled onto a county road and he walked kind of toward the woods just to use the restroom, just to do a number one, not to be rude because the girl he was with was right there. And this all he heard was like a click click, and there were these two guys came walking up out of the woods, and they were like threatening him, and he was just like, look, man, I just stopped at, you know, whatever, and they're like, get back in your car, you know, and then they pointed at the purple post and like, do you not see that? And you know, it was like dusk, you know, it wasn't like completely dark. He was trying to go and he said that he hid behind some Mustang grapes vines on a tree. And they just came out of nowhere and were threatening to kill him. And of course, they were just like as serious as a heart attack. And at that point in time, he learned exactly how serious people were. He's about a year or two after we saw the dog man. So, yeah, that stuff happens. It hasn't happened to me, thank God. But I've people are very, very serious about that. One of the things Eric was talking about, I'm going to touch on that road between Leander and Georgetown, that highway.
Oh yeah,
dude, that is the weirdest. That place has 29. So much weird stuff, man.
Yeah, 29. No, exactly. It's I'm gonna see how I can approach this because it ties into a lot of weird stuff. But I'll talk about the ones that I'm familiar with, and there were two accounts that happened. One of them was in 2017. 2017, I can go back to this. 2017 was one of the craziest years for activity in the area. Everybody was having, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people were having encounters. So much so that alphabet agencies got involved. This is 100% a fact. I have the documentation. I have everything about this. It's a fact. They got involved. And one of the crazy things.
Before he says that, I want to just preface it with this. Eric is very thorough. A very thorough researcher right there. I'm happy he's my friend, but this guy is a very thorough researcher. He's a FOIA king, dude. Trust me. That's how I met this guy, because we were on a group page together in a group. Eric was talking about the FOIAs that he had gathered from the LBL, and he had done a lot of research, a lot of documentation. And when we went down the rabbit hole, I started talking to him about what he knew about a certain subject that we were both exploring, and we kind of bumped into each other. And he was just like, look, man, I've researched this, And then when I found out that he was from Central Texas, I was like, oh, I've searched the same thing. And then we just started going back and forth, and then we just became friends. But that's how we met, was we ran into each other as researchers, researching some of the topics. So, yeah, Eric is very thorough with this.
Very cool.
Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, absolutely not. I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. 2017, there was an insane amount of activity, so much so that there was rumored on one of these Facebook pages, like the People of Facebook page, that someone had taken a video of something tall and lengthy walking right near the creek. Apparently, it was a really good video. A lot of people had seen this video. When I had started my research, I was reaching out to people saying, hey, has anybody seen anything weird or heard anything weird? Multiple people, different people, told me, you need to reach out to this guy. He's the one who took this video. Reach out to him. I have all the emails of like 5 different people saying, talk to this guy. So I reached out to the guy. I have his emails too. And he's saying, sorry, Eric, I did see something. I can't go into detail because I signed a non-disclosure agreement. That's pretty much what he said. And I have all this. I have all this information. I really didn't believe, I was just kind of, I thought it was a joke or whatever. But doing some more digging, I don't know if I should talk about all this stuff, but yeah, it was
Throw it out there, man.
100% factual. Okay, so no, it's like so 2017, there was an alphabet agency that had heard about this, and in my opinion, they were so desperate because there was so much of activity taking place. They needed to do something. So what did they do? They literally put out a $500,000 reward for any type of information that would lead to photographs, capture, or killing of whatever this thing was. That's a fact. That's 100% fact. How do we know that? It's because I have an email from the head of this alphabet agency in Texas. I know his name. I have all this information. He's emailing the chief of police in the area saying, hey, we've heard about all this stuff taking place. We're offering you all our assistance that you need in this matter. And we're also offering $500,000 to any information about this. Now, I got to ask you guys, have you ever known an alphabet agency to offer a fake reward like that publicly?
No, absolutely not.
And a lot of people were saying, oh, this is a publicity stunt or whatever for the county, or they're doing some. If it was a publicity stunt for the county, why is a federal organization getting involved in this? Makes absolutely no sense. Not only that, but when you figure out who this person was, the person who had emailed the chief of police, you can go and see his LinkedIn profile. On there, it says that he was the head of this organization in Central and South Texas, that he worked on the, like 9/11 stuff. He worked on all types of this is a real serious guy. And as you start to get to the bottom of it, you see that it says very clearly, it says that he is in charge of 10 overt, he's in charge of 10 overt and covert secret facilities inside of Texas, along with secret information. It says that right on his bio.
Wow.
So you're just kind of like, this is the guy who sent that email. And a lot of times we'll hear about we'll hear about some of these stories and stuff like, oh, there was a, Bigfoot mating season poster out there or something or whatever, And obviously that's some type of a gimmick. We have no idea who posted that or whatever. This, we have the paper trail. We can trace it back to where that goes. And it's factual. It's undeniable.
Wow.
And it's all really strange. Okay, so back to 2017. We were talking about 29. Sorry. I have to kind of build that up or whatever. One of the craziest things was that it was June 17th, 2017 was really, I think, what got the alphabet agencies interested, because there was a huge it was an encounter that was written on the BFRO database.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's very detailed, Brushy Creek. The craziest thing is that the same day the agency put out this reward was the same day that encounter had happened. So you're kind of like, whoa, are they monitoring BFRO sites? Or like, what's going on here? Like, that was the same day that happened.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't believe in coincidence. Yeah, I don't believe in coincidence.
Okay, so the next closest report we have on the BFRO to this one that happened in 2017 was the very next day off of 29, the highway Josh is talking about there. There was a guy who was driving. It's around 3 o'clock in the morning. He has these deer whistles on his car to, I guess, to help from hitting deer.
Yep.
And he sees this thing that he describes as like a gorilla cross the road and jump into a tree and start shaking the tree very angrily and viciously. And he was with his son, and he thinks that it was probably just agitated from the noise of this whistles or whatever. And that was the agency put out the thing where the reward, the day of that sighting, the next day another sighting happens just 15 miles away. It's crazy. It's insane. And then on 29 again, the next sighting that I've heard about was in 2018 when a couple was driving out there near the Balcones Canyonlands. The Balcones Canyonlands, beautiful area out in the hill country of Central Texas. It's a federal preserve. So it's kind of like a federal park, but it's a federal preserve. There's a lot of endangered animals and species out in that area. And that's where a lot of the Brushy Creek feeds out of there. A lot of these creeks feed out of the Balcones Canyonlands. So you can follow these creeks all the way back up to the Balcones, beautiful area. But the next sighting was these couple that were driving through the Balcones Canyonlands, and they said they had seen someone they thought was wearing chaps. They thought he was wearing like furry chaps or whatever. And then this person proceeds to run and cross and jump a 12-foot high cage that was part of the Balcones Canyonlands. And there's photos of the cage and where this thing jumped from. And the people who did that investigation were actually really thorough. It's pretty awesome. It's on the Wood Ape Conservancy. I think that's what it is, Wood Ape Conservancy website. But again, that's just two of the many accounts that are taking place off of 29. And one of the other strange things is I had mentioned a goat cave here in Georgetown from the Spurlunkers group. Right off of 29, there was a cave that a farmer had tracked his missing goat to this cave. And apparently there was a lot of other, a lot of weird stuff centered around this cave, a lot of mythology around this cave. And he wanted to blow it up. He wanted to destroy it because he was able to track. He thinks it was possibly a panther or some large predator took his goat into this cave. We don't know what that was, but he petitioned the county to destroy this. And after the city went out there and everything, they said they would not be able to destroy it because he has these spiders in this cave. They're like endangered spiders. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately he was not able to destroy. And I think that cave is still out there off of 29, a gigantic cave where, predators are rumored to use this. What kind of predators, we don't really know, but Josh knows this. It's both ways of that. Even the other way, there's been after the 2018 encounter, there was another one a little bit further east, and that one they actually found a footprint in bedded down area where they think something might have laid down. So it's all really strange and weird. And yeah, it's really, to me, that agency thing, kind of like a smoking gun that not really a lot of people know about that. It's really, I don't know. It's odd. It's undisputable. It 100% happened. And I think it's an ongoing thing, to be honest with you, because I'm still getting reports. I'm hearing stuff as recent as this past year, excuse me. There was a bus driver that was crossing one of the bridges on Brushy Creek. And here you have to stop before you cross the road or all that type of stuff. So they stopped, and apparently something came out of the brush. Multiple kids on this bus, a bus driver had seen this, and slapped the side of the bus. And they described it as a hairy person, a hairy being that came out and slapped the side of this bus. And I went digging on this one, trying to find some more answers. And fortunately, I just kind of came up dry with that one. But a lot of really weird, strange stuff taking place. And you can see what I'm talking about. I wasn't really aiming to make a paranormal. We haven't even talked about the bodies. That's the other thing. We haven't even mentioned the bodies. I'm just up here talking about other stuff. But that's really what got me. Yeah. That's really what got me engaged, was the bodies that were popping up. Because unfortunately, in 2016, that might have been why the agency was interested too. In 2016, we had 3 bodies pop up in the Brushy Creek. This is the same year that my town, Round Rock, was named one of the top 10 safest cities in America. The same year, we've got 3 bodies show up. Like, come on. Wow. Two of the bodies were 6 days apart, which is crazy. You're like, 6 days apart, really? Like, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Wow. And not only that, but like I said, there were 3 in 2016. We did find the identity of 2 of those people. They were in their 40s. They were both male, in good shape, good health. There's really no reason for them to, have turned up dead in the Brushy Creek. And the other one, we have no idea who this person was. We have no idea if it was a man, woman, age. We have no information on that. We just know they were found along the Brushy Creek in 2016.
Was there autopsies done on the bodies where?
Every body they pulled out of the Brushy Creek, they've said there's been no trauma or foul play. Yeah. Everybody, they said that.
Interesting. Wow.
Weird.
Well, in 2017, one of the other things, again, when all this stuff was taking place, they came out here in 2017, and it was weird because they were definitely doing something on the Brushy Creek. We know that for a fact. And when they left, oh, here we go. A guy finds another body on the Brushy Creek in 2017. And this time he actually live streamed it. He's like walking along the Brushy Creek and he finds a body live streaming, and he finds, he comes across a kill site or whatever you want to call it. Not only that, but they found also in 2017, right along that same area, they found a skull We have no idea whose skull that was. And the thing is that we would get this, and it's in my documentary, the police officer, and she's saying, oh, this is an ongoing investigation. We're going to update the public. And it's always radio silent after that. You never hear anything after that. In 2018, a little bit off of the Brushy Creek, there was a man that was found in a pond that was dead. We don't know who that person was. This was in December. We have no idea who he was, whatever. In 2019, you see there's been one every year at least. 2019, there was an elderly man. This man was 70 years old. They found him in the same area where they found the skull and one of the bodies they found in 2016. They found this elderly man in August. It was like 150 degrees out. It was crazy hot. What is he doing out here in August? Right. The crazy thing is that they found him in the Brushy Creek. That part of the Brushy Creek has a large barbed wire fence over it. How would a 70-year-old man be able to cross that, and then just fall into the Brushy Creek and die? It didn't really make a whole lot of sense there. A lot of weird stuff. In 2020, there was no death. Thank God, and that might have been because of the stuff going on in 2020. Not a lot of people out and about.
So let me ask you a question real quick. When you go out to like these weird areas, do you go by yourself or do you have a team you go with or?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go out by myself. Not at all. No, I have a few people that I go out with. One of my friends is David. He's a Native American guy. He's actually featured in the documentary where he's fearless. He's like, let's go. He wanted to go all through the cave and everything. We didn't even have a light or anything like that. My friend David, my friend Aaron, who's just a technology whiz. That guy's a genius when it comes to technology. So I take him pretty much anywhere I go when I'm filming. But I would never go out in my area alone just because of not only the people factor, but again, like the sinkholes and all this stuff. It's a really, I'll give you another example. There was this is terrible, a man who had posted in the group, fishing group in the Brushy Creek thing, that he had half of his foot amputated from being in one section of the Brushy Creek. And I was like, holy crap, like, geez, like it's there's real dangers out there. People might not realize that.
Wow.
There's also trees growing in the middle of it too. Like, I mean,
there are trees in the there are trees that just
go swimming in there. You'll be dead quick. I mean,
right.
I
do have a question though. On some of those bodies that were found, you said that there was 2 that were identified besides the old man, but there was 2 that are identified. Have they identified these as campers or hikers or?
So both of them were people that lived in the city. And both of them were really strange. I'll talk about the first one that happened. I want to say it was in June. And this was a guy who he was, again, a man in his 40s, and his car was found 5 miles away at a car wash. So how did he get to the Brushy Creek? That's all really strange and weird too. And another guy was found actually right by the Round Rock, which is the namesake of the town. That's why we're named Round Rock, and that has a whole weird history that I could go into in itself. A lot of rumors of that being a ritualistic area.
It looks like
that's a fact. Yeah,
it looks like it.
I don't think it was natural. People say that it's a natural formation. I don't think that at all.
No,
it doesn't look natural.
It looks
at all.
Mayan or Aztec or something.
Yeah, it looks very, very. If you see it, you'll be like, "Whoa, this is really kind of weird." But no, they found him right near the Round Rock, which is really strange too, because and it was in broad daylight. It was like 2 p.m. They found this guy. So you're like, what the heck is going on? You think someone would have seen something, because that's kind of I don't want to say touristy area, but it's a really pretty area that people go and walk near the Brushy Creek there. Yeah, it's a nice area. So you would like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, nobody saw anything. Like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah,
so it is weird. And I was saying, in 2020, there were no bodies. Thank God for that. But there was a teenage girl that went missing along the Brushy Creek, and this is where it gets really weird. She was last seen carrying a blue suitcase and an antique Victorian doll with her. And you're wondering, like, what the heck is going on there? Really strange and weird. That doesn't sound like she's going camping. She's might be up to something else. Apparently, they did find her, but I think she might be a little bit different from everything that happened, unfortunately. And there are some I don't want to say rumors. There are facts of people encountering I have this message here where it was a guy that I was trying to get an interview with. Unfortunately, he declined the interview, and I can understand why. His wife was walking along the same area where the elderly man had died, where the guy who parked 5 miles away where they found his body, his wife was walking along one of these trails with their kids. And this was in 2011, the same year we had that drought, the same year I had my encounter. They were walking along the Brushy Creek, and this woman encounters cloaked people in the middle of this dry creek bed performing some type of ritual. I have the messages from that. I have all this.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is multiple people have told me this. Growing up in the area, it's featured in my documentary. We go to this bridge to where the first time I was at this bridge, my buddy had told me about her, and I don't want to get. Well, I don't know if I should. I don't know what. They found a decapitated deer there, and I didn't really believe it. So I was like, "Oh, let's go back out there, or whatever." I was, making it up or whatever. And so we go back out there, and there wasn't a deer. This time there was actually a decapitated dog that was out there. So people were doing some type of, I don't know, people or something's going on down there. This is a fact. This is a fact. And then the last time I tried to go down there, I was trying to take my friend Francisco. I'm trying to take him down there. We're mountain biking through the Brushy Creek area. And I'm like, hey, you want to check out this spot that, growing up, this is whatever. And so he's like, let's go check it out. So we're biking through there. And then we get to the spot where we needed to kind of like cross a little creek area. And it's just overgrown. The grass is, as tall as me. It's really high. So we're like, there's no way. Let's just turn around. And this is a one-way in, one-way out trail. So we're turning back around. We're coming back out. Right in the middle of this trail where we just came from is a black cat's head with a spinal cord attached to it. Like, we just came through there. We didn't see that. And now it's in the middle of this road. And that made no sense. And we're just like, dude, let's get the hell out of here. So we hightailed it out of there.
Wow.
And Josh, I don't know if I've... Go ahead.
Did you notice if that was kind of like a fresh kill, or was it kind of old?
The thing that I noticed more than anything was the head of the black cat was immaculate. It's perfect. Didn't look like it had a scratch on it. The eyes and the expression was terror, pure terror. The eyes, the mouth was wide open, like it was, I don't know if it just happened or what, but it was terrified, this look on this thing's face. And that really creeped us out more than anything, the face of this cat. And then the spinal cord was just there, like no blood, nothing like that. It was just really weird. So it could have been fresh. It could have been fresh. I'm not sure. And Josh, I think I've showed you this about that. I interviewed this guy in my other documentary, The Legend of Harryman Road, and he's an amazing researcher. He doesn't go public. Everything he does is kind of in the shadows or whatever, and there's a good reason for that. And he was in the area researching, and he was showing me some stuff. And he was off of the Balcones area, the Balcones Canyonlands area. And he shows me this picture of a coyote that was turned inside out and tied into a knot.
To a knot, yeah.
Tied into a knot, yeah. Turned inside out, tied into a knot. Like, what's going to do that? What in the world's going to do that?
You have to have some strength to turn it inside out and tie it in a knot.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead. I'm just going to say,
man.
We're all over the place. We're talking about dead bodies, Comanches.
We've covered all this. You and I have talked before about all this. But one thing I was going to say is we've talked about the area between Interspace and Longhorn. Those caverns, they're connected underground all the way through.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I mean, everybody thinks that it's like there's a spot here and a spot here. I don't think so. And in fact, I would take it a step further and say, because my friend in his property near Cistern, he found a sinkhole, and it went down so far when the county sheriffs were like, we don't know how far that goes down, so they just said to cover it up, and the county never did anything about it. I believe that's in Hayes. I'm not real sure. But it goes like from Interspace all the way to Natural Bridge, which would be in San Antonio. Yeah, I mean in northern San Antonio.
How crazy is that?
Yeah,
no, I believe that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's where we get.
And they said that.
Yeah, no, that's where we get all our water from. These gigantic aquifers that are underground. That they protect these aquifers really well. Like there are certain areas that are like recharge stations and stuff like that, and they're gated, and all this caves that are gated and everything like that because they don't want people to get in and kind of contaminate the aquifers or what have you. But I mean, it's all over the place. Like I said, it's Swiss cheese out here. We talked about before, Josh, Airman's Cave, which was a cave that kind of goes underneath Austin. And this is a really strange cave too. I think there's only been like a handful of people that have ever reached the end of this cave. There's an awesome article. Yeah, there's an awesome article written on this online about a group of guys that they went into this cave. They spent 8 hours getting to the end of this cave, 8 hours crawling, unbelievable. And towards the end of this cave, they find two gigantic crystals, like the crystals you would see like in Mexico, like those in Chihuahua, those gigantic crystals they have. There was two of them. And and there was also a area that supposedly had some old relics and stuff that you passed through. And actually, they gave a name to it. They called it like the gallery. And in that area, there's a bunch of old relics and stuff from ancient and modern times that I guess people in the 1800s had gone through there too. But I mean, it's just like I said, there's Dead Dog's Cave. There's just caves all over Central Texas and in Austin that you would imagine they would have to be connected in some way, shape, or form underground, just because it's like I said, when the university came out here and they did that study, they were kind of amazed and they thought their data was incorrect, but I think they were spot on with that. I do believe there is a gigantic underground cavern system that I think some people in the upper echelon have taken advantage of. And we could go into a little bit of detail about that too. But no, it's a really strange, weird place that doesn't get the attention. Maybe that might be for a sound reason. There might be a reason that doesn't get the attention it should. Like, I'll give you guys an instance. There was in 2023, there was I forget the organization, but they scrambled from Colorado 2 jets over the Central Texas area because there was an unidentified flying object. They scrambled jets for this thing. Like, this is a fact. I have the paperwork for it and everything. And I mean, the cost to scramble jets from Colorado to Central Texas to investigate an unidentified flying object, that to me, that was also really weird. But did you ever hear about that in the news and the major news networks or anything like that? You never hear about that stuff. No, you never hear about it. But and again, off of the Brushy Creek, when I did my documentary, I spoke to a guy who talked about seeing this green light chase his car and it dissolved or whatever. That was right on 79 that goes to Hutto and no man's land out there. And there was a shortly after, I want to say in like 2020, there was it wasn't a meteor, it was some type of phenomenon that occurred. It was captured on video of a green ball of light being dispersed over the town of Hutto, right over the Brushy Creek. And they interviewed someone from NASA, I want to say NASA, or someone from the space organization talked about it. And they said that was a once in a lifetime thing to see. Now, I have someone that said they saw this before right over the Brushy Creek. And this is another person saying that. So this happened twice, and it's like a once in a lifetime thing. It's happened over the Brushy Creek more than once. It's kind of strange and interesting. And I don't know, like, when you start thinking about like the Roman coin and all this other stuff, was there a reason for that? What was going on? What was taking place? Really strange and weird. And I mean, we haven't even really talked about some of the other stuff like the Devil's Backbone or it's really strange and creepy.
I've only been to Texas a few times, but I had no idea you guys had all those caves and stuff down there.
Everything.
Massive amounts of caves.
Our former in Austin, I know Eric knows this, but like back in the 1870s, 1880s, up until like I think the 1940s, Town Hall was like where the Hancock Center is, Eric.
Yep.
It's underground, and they had to they had to be careful because like there's sinkholes there too. And literally there was like some kind of weird, I don't know what those buildings are. They have no markings on them. They look like a series of apartment complexes. Somebody said that the Boy Scouts of America at one time owned them. And then they also said that the Jesuits owned them. But nobody can really tell me what the hell it is. But it's right there. Like if you go to the Hancock Center, 24-hour fitness, you go to because we used to do security there. And you kind of go, the parking lot slopes down like that, and it's like down. And so the reason is because all of that at one time was just a giant sinkhole, and it's crazy. They like built and like we did security there for a while years ago when I was working for another company, and the guard there was like, "Hey, you want to see something cool?" And so we go into the Sears, which was, and then we go down into this like underground tunnel, and there is the city hall, and it's so creepy. It's still there to this day, and it looks like it hasn't been touched. Like there's an amphitheater and all kinds of stuff. And I was walking around, and I was like, there were chairs and everything, like people where they could watch stuff, and it was like a town hall. It was insane. There's like an entire like little community under there that's just been abandoned. And when we went further down, there was like this kind of like trap door looking thing. And it's funny because the guy that showed me that, his name was Eric, but he was Hispanic dude too. But it's funny, man. Like he showed me, he's like, mira, and he's like, over here, aquí. And so I walk over there, and I have my flashlight, and I was like, what is that? And he found it. And like he opened it up, and there was like this big like metal ring. Wow. And he pulled it up, and all this like you could smell like this rotting cave smell. And he wanted me to go down there with him and go look around. I said, nah, man, I ain't going down there, dude. I said, not today, man. That was years ago. It was like in 2000. I said, I'm not doing that. So we left, but he was like trying to get one of the other guards to go and he wanted to go explore it. And I had a guy named Chuck that used to work for me. Now he's still, to this day, he's a butcher over at HEB. And he worked for me part-time, and he told me about that place, and he goes, we're at HEB, and one of the guys there had gone into the Sears after they had closed it down and had wandered around and had found the underground or whatever and went down in there. And he says that he heard weird noises and saw like shadows and stuff. And so he got scared and left. But the guards were saying that at that other company, it was called Executive. And they were telling me all this weird stuff was going on. So I went to go check it out, but I chickened out at the last minute of going further down into the caves because you don't know what's down there, man. And the stairs were like crumbled and stuff. Like you couldn't like keep going. Like you would have to jump. And I was like, man, no, I ain't doing that, man. Yeah. Eric wanted me to go and check that out. And I was like, I told him, I said, no, I'm not doing that. But that guy, he had gone down there. He had explored it. So he actually had been in there. He'd gone like, 200 or 300 yards. And he said, it just keeps going and going. And I said, he goes, how far do you think it goes? I said, probably clear to Georgetown. I'm not going down in there, dude.
Yeah. No, it's real. Like, I won't go into too much about, what I do, where I work and stuff like that. But there are certain areas and buildings in Austin that, you think when you hit the lowest number on the elevator, that's the bottom floor. You're actually going way lower than that. And I've done that a few times where I've been on an elevator here in town and I hit the button and I thought I'm on the base floor and I'm like, I'm actually underground. And I'm like, well, this is different. And then you get somebody coming out saying, hey, what are you doing down here? That's what happens a lot of the time. But no, I mean, I think there's people been taking advantage of that for a long time. Like up by Colleen, we can go ahead and talk about this. I'm working on a book right now about some of the stuff that was taking place in West Fort Hood. Now, if you guys know, Fort Hood is a military establishment that's in Colleen up here. And it's an interesting place. And what a lot of people don't realize is that was there since like pre Area 51, to be honest with you. It's been there for a really long time. And the reason why I bring Area 51 up is because that was actually used, West Fort Hood is an underground base that's part of Fort Hood that was used to store nuclear weapons back in the 30s and the 40s. And we know for a fact they have tunnels underground. This is a fact. There's some videos of these tunnels. Allegedly, I remember growing up, we'd hear that the tunnels stretched all the way to the Gulf Coast. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but we do know that people that worked at this facility were not allowed to wear their identification, what military rank they were, where they were from, Marines. They were not allowed to wear any type of military garb or anything like that. They were okay. So half of the tunnels down there now are used for training purposes, and the other half have been taken over by private industry. This is a fact. So it's like, what are these private industries doing testing down? I think it's like, I know the cave goes. The tunnel goes like 12 to 15 miles inside of one of the mountains there. And that's just one of the ones that we know about. So I'm working on trying to get some more information about Project 76 is what they called it. It's really not much information on it. There has been rumor for a long time about UFOs and stuff being housed there. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's a lot of rumor and conjecture about that. And that's one of the books that I'm working on now, just trying to get information, which is really slim. Not a lot of people want to talk about it. It's really weird because when 9/11 happened, that became the command center for the United States. People don't really realize that.
No idea.
That they moved everything into West Fort Hood because it was one of the most secure facilities they had underground. Really, really strange. And we had talked about this stuff taking place in 2017 in my area, and the alphabet agencies being in the area. And right after that, in 2018, one of the craziest things was that the little town of Round Rock, we ended up getting a what do they call it? A military, where they store like the weapons and all that. I forget what they call those. It slipped my brain. But anyways, they put one here.
Underground facility?
No, it's armory. They put an armory.
Armory, okay,
Armory.
Or a depot, either or.
Yeah, they put it right, not far from the Brushy Creek. The other crazy thing is where, not far from where my encounter happened, where they found all these bodies, there's a gigantic open field that's been open right across from the Brushy Creek. It's been there forever, years and years and years. The guy used to have his longhorns out there. When this started happening, when that the armory was taking place, the armory had just been completed. Right after that, they started doing work in this field. And I have the satellite images. I have all this. You see military vehicles along this field doing work out there. This is a fact. We see 3 holes that were drilled in there, big holes that were drilled in there. And now it's all covered up. You go out there and there's gigantic lumps in the ground in the middle of these fields. And you're like, what the hell is going on? There was a massive amount of construction taking place. And all of a sudden it's just like white. There's nothing there. But we have these big mounds that stick up out of the ground there, like right next to the Brushy Creek. Really strange and weird. And not far from some of these caves that I've encountered myself. So it's like, are they using the cave system that's already there to tap into stuff, or are they building it's a lot of questions. And just recently in December, the people in Round Rock have been reporting booms. Josh, I think I had sent you something about that. These large booms taking place. No one knows where this is coming from. It happened in December. It happened like 3 weeks ago. People are like, what are these booms that we're hearing in town? And the crazy thing is, in 2018, I talked about a cave-in that happened underneath one of these houses. Right before that cave-in happened, they talked about hearing booms taking place off of the Brushy Creek as well. So it's kind of like, man, what's going on here? And it's kind of like towards the east and stuff. And to the east, I don't think we've even. I'm thinking about the east now. I haven't even finished talking about the bodies that were popping up. I mean, we just got to 2020. That's where we got to. But it continued on into 2021. In 2021, I was actually at a car show, and I had heard about this body that was found in Taylor, Texas, in a very rural area by the creek. And it was this one was really odd and strange. I was at this car show, and there was a cop doing traffic. And I walked past him and I was like, hey, what's the deal with that body they found over there in Taylor or whatever? And he's like, oh, you mean that murder? And I was like, okay, yeah. And he's like, oh, I don't know, man. He goes, he's like, you're like the 5th person to ask me about that. He goes, let's go talk to my supervisor or whatever. So we walk up to the supervisor or whatever. And he pretty much didn't see me because the guy in front of me was this big guy or whatever. And he asked him, he's like, hey, what's up with that murder over there? And he's like, oh, another state's involved with that. And he saw me pop to the side of it. Now I was like, another state's involved with that. And he's kind of like, oh, yeah. He just kind of made a face like he wasn't expecting to see me. And he's like, yeah, another state's involved with that. We really can't say too much about that. So that was really strange. We have no idea if that was a man, woman, how old they were. We have no idea. Wow. We just know that a farmer found them in a very rural area of Taylor, Williamson County out there. In that area, like I said, that's kind of no man's land out there. It is just, you can go a couple of miles in any direction and it's barren. It's really barren out there. A lot of dry creek beds, patchy forest areas out there, also caves as well.
My hometown.
Yeah. not only that, but in 2022, on Friday the 13th, they actually found someone not far from the Brushy Creek, young person they found dead Friday the 13th, it's really kind of crazy. And again, we have no idea if that was we just know it was a young person. They never said if it was a man, woman, anything like that. So these happen, and one of the ones that happened recently, that kind of it hit me pretty hard, because I was actually contacted by this person who was working on a missing persons incident that was happening in my area here in Round Rock. They had seen my documentary and about how I talked about some of these bodies have been popping up and stuff like that. They knew I lived in the area, and they knew this person went missing in the area. This is one of the strangest things I've ever heard. It was a guy who was about my age, who was coming from Conroe out here to meet his brother. And he runs out of gas on 35. And he calls his dad and says, "Hey, Dad, I ran out of gas, whatever. I'm coming to meet my brother or whatever." It was just kind of all weird. And the dad says, "All right, stay there. We'll be right there." This was in August or something, super hot, crazy hot. And so he ends up walking. This is in the middle of the night. He ends up walking for a few hours, and he walks all the way to a Catholic church, a gigantic Catholic church in the area, huge church. And he asked for help. And they called the cops on him. It's terrible. They called the cops on him. And unfortunately, the last images we have of this person being alive are the body camera images of the cops asking him to leave the area. And what's really strange was, prior to this, the dad knew something was wrong. And so he issued he called and said this was a missing person or whatever, his son. The cops knew he was a missing person, and they still asked him to leave the area. Now, whether or not they knew he was the actual person, or it was just a Keystone cops not really doing their job, that could have been another thing. But they asked him to leave, and unfortunately, they found his remains along McNeil Road, which is a road that is covered in caves and just a really creepy.
Wow.
And I've always said, if you're driving on that road and it's nighttime and you get a flat, that is the worst place to get a flat tire. It is just like, you look around, it's desolate. You see big just bluffs of cave, just holes where caves are and stuff lining. It's a creepy spot.
I drove through there last night.
Yeah, don't get a flat tire, man. Just keep going.
A crazy thing happened to us there one time. My cousin Trey, we were moving my Aunt Susan, and this was back in 2015. And some guy hit them going, this is true, hit them going 70 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
He T-boned them, and all that happened was my cousin got whiplash real bad. He was the one driving, and my aunt ended up getting a broken leg. But the cops were shocked that nobody died. The guy was drunk.
70, yeah.
He was like a 20-year-old kid, and he hit him in a Mustang, and his vehicle was completely shredded. Both vehicles were totaled, and I saw this, when I went to the scene of it, and I was like not too far away and I pulled up on this scene with my brother, and we were like, oh my gosh, I thought Trey and Susan were dead. And Trey's been on my show talking about the reservation horror stories. But he lived and she did too. And then they ended up getting like a settlement or whatever from that guy's insurance. But it was unbelievable. He crossed over the median right there. And apparently, according to what one of the police officers told me, he said that road is horrible for wrecks, and that they have wrecks for no reason. It's just like people just driving and someone will jump the median. He said this is like the third or fourth time this has happened in his career. And this was in 2015. And he said there was one in 2013 that was really bad, involving some children or something, or maybe it was 2014. But he had said like the year or two before. What's crazy though is like what he's talking about is when Starscream and me, he was on the show the other night toward the end of late night. We were just kicking it, and we had about 300 or 400 people in the chat, but it wasn't like nothing, we weren't talking. But he's like explored that whole area. And my friend Willie did too before he passed away back in 2020. but they both had claimed to have run into these weird caves that if you go down in there, and they've both seen like these weird like metal grates, like they're chained up.
All right, you got to let me jump in on this one.
Go ahead. Tell them what you saw. You told me and Anthony.
Well, recently I had just heard, I got some information from a guy who had, I might be related to him, which is kind of weird. It's like my family has a long history in the area, a really long history. Been here since the 1900s. There's an article written about my family in the City of Round Rock's website. Been here for a long time. And in this certain area of McNeil Road, there was a cemetery where some of my relatives have been buried there. And what Josh is saying, there's a lot of areas there where they're covered with grates. And I have the picture. He sent me one that's it's kind of like a hatch that you open and you open and you close there. But not a lot of people know about this because only certain people are allowed to be buried there. I think they all have a few spots left or whatever. But a guy who reached out to me, he had seen my documentary, told me about, he had been out there with his cousin. They do the yard work out there at the cemetery and off of McNeil. So they're very familiar with the area. And that his cousin had been off on one of these hills doing the yard work, and he was on this other area, and he's working on something, and then he sees that he asked his cousin to come over for help, but he sees that he's all the way over there, and then he waved at him, like, hey, come over here. And then like within an instant, he was right there. And he was like, whoa, how'd you, he's like, I saw you all the way over there. He's like, what are you talking about? I was never over there. I've been here the whole, the whole time. So he's like, who was that person that we saw over there standing on that hill? Didn't make a whole lot of sense. And you hear about these stories. The other crazy thing is, if you keep going, if you follow McNeil, on the backside of McNeil, you follow it to the southern side. That's where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house was. That's a fact. If you follow it all the way, that's where the house led up to it. And I have a history with that house too. My aunt lived in that house growing up. And there was one night where her and her family, it's like a normal night. They had gone to bed and they woke up. Everybody woke up outside on the ground, and they were all freaked out about it. They went to my grandparents' house and they started living there after that. So yeah, they abandoned that house.
Wow.
And that's we heard that growing up. We would drive by the massacre house, going to my grandma's house all the time.
I tell you what's weird. If you don't believe in synchronicity, next week we're going to have Chris Garitano on the show, who wrote a book called South Texas Blues, and it was all about that house. Now, a couple months ago, me and Nellie went to Kingsland to visit that house. Now, I went inside that house and walked around a little bit, and the people that were in charge were like, yeah, that part of the house is closed, but they let me walk through it. And I explained to them, I said, look, when I was a child, my dad's friend owned this place, and I actually slept in it a couple times, and I played in it with their children. And there's even a picture I got somewhere. I think one of my sisters has it. It's a picture of me pushing a big Tonka truck through the hallway of that house. And what's really interesting is that Eric had his aunt living in that house. And then, we have talked about this house before. It's supposedly very haunted. The people in Kingston said it's weird stuff happens there all the time. And they said that it was a really creepy place from the get-go, like when they first moved it over there. And then there was all kinds of weird stuff that happened when they moved it. But, Chris Garitano, who's now doing some work that involves that I can't really get into what he's doing, but it's based on some of that, stuff about the filmmaking, like what went on and how messed up stuff was when Tobe Hooper was trying to make that film, and how crazy everything went. A lot of people got hurt, and people had a lot of weird things that happened. And though this, your aunt having that situation where they woke up outside, there have been UFO reports in that area. A guy reached out to me after I told your story about your aunt in that house. And I made the connection on my show between you, me, and Chris Garitano, which is odd that you're on today. Next week, Chris is on, and we all have this connection with that house. And this guy messages me, and he says, hey, he goes, back in 1979, he goes, I broke down on the side of the road, and right there on that hill, you could see that house. Now La Frontera, right? If you keep going. Right? And he's like, I could see it. He goes, and then he goes, I see this UFO. Like it goes, and it was like almost had like a trail going behind it, and it went down. He goes, and then next thing you know, it's daytime, and it was like 11 or 12 at night. I don't remember the whole story. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but he had missing time, right there by that house. And he said that was really the only thing he could see was that creepy house. And I remember as a kid, I mean, everybody was always like, that's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, because that's where it was filmed. But before that movie even came out, my dad told me that was a creepy place and that it had sat abandoned for a while. And people would be like, hey, I dare you to go up there and knock on the door, because it was supposedly.
Oh, yeah. They would dare the teenagers to go up there and do stuff. I remember hearing about that too. My aunt would tell me about that. They would dare different teenagers to go up there and kind of just try to spend the night inside, or and I remember one time, like kind of crazy, but we were right across the street, and there's a lot of like brujeria in that neighborhood where my grandma lives, which is right across from the massacre house. It's a kind of neighborhood. It's been there for a long time, and the developers, they can't wait to get their hands on that. Let me tell you, but no, so they had I mean, one time there were some people doing some stuff in that house. And they came walking by, and I remember my grandfather had to shoot in the air because they were some rowdy kids that were coming by, and they were throwing stuff and doing all types of crazy, saying all types of crazy stuff. But no, it's I never looked at it as kind of like I wasn't scared of it until I kind of realized the history, because my mom would tell us when we were kids, like, oh, that's where they filmed the massacre house or whatever. And I didn't know what that meant until I saw the movie, and I was like, that's the. You pointed it out like it's just like some normal house or whatever. It's just...
So when you say the massacre house, is it the house from the movie or where it actually like?
No, it's the house from the movie.
House from the movie,
Cool.
The house from the movie. They filmed it out there, yeah.
Cool.
100%, yeah. The good old La Frontera area now. It's that house isn't there anymore. Yeah, now it's like a luxury apartments and stuff in that area. It's nice. It's nice now, but it has a weird history. And in that area, I was going to mention this, that a lot of brujeria in that neighborhood across the street. And one of my relatives, growing up in that area, they would sleep with the windows open. And I'll just say there was one night where something grabbed one of my relatives' feet and they tried pulling them out of the house through the window. This is a fact. Yeah, this is a fact. My grandfather and my uncle went running out and they didn't see anybody. But this is right across the street from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. That neighborhood's a really old neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Been there for a very long time, and that's just kind of the whole Round Rock, Central Texas. It's been here such a long time. It's like I said, we didn't really touch on the Devil's Backbone or anything like that, but you hear about that that's one of the things that I think people are probably more familiar of when it comes to Central Texas. They don't really hear about the Harryman Road or some other of these things. Jake's Hill Bridge, which I'm actually working on a project about that right now. I'm working with Hutto. I'm working with the former mayor. Who there's a lot of really strange stuff. We don't really know the history of Jake's Hill Bridge. We just know it's I hate to use the word hotspot, but it is somewhat of a paranormal hotspot. There was a CBS News, I want to say the local news agency, had gone out there in 2020, and they had captured some really weird stuff, possible orbs. They had voice phenomena that was taking place as well. And one of the stranger accounts that I've heard of Jake's Hill was a woman that was, I think she was bike riding in the area, and she had heard her name being called. And she turned around and didn't see anything. And then shortly after that, she heard a wolf howl or an animal howl. And that's right there. The Jake's Hill Bridge crosses the Brushy Creek area. So that's kind of like two creepy areas intersecting right there. Really weird. And there's stories that one of the reasons they could be named that is because a man who had lost everything in the Great Depression had killed his family and then jumped off of the bridge. That's one story. Another story is that these high school kids had flipped off of the bridge. It's another story. And one of the last stories that I've heard about was that a Confederate soldier, had been hung from that bridge, is another story that I've heard about. So hopefully when I speak to the mayor, the former mayor, he'll give some clarification on that. I have some interviews lined up with people that have experienced stuff out there. I'm not really going to go into that now, but I'm looking forward to getting some history on that, because not a lot of people know about the Jake's Hill Bridge. Like I said, they know more about the Devil's Backbone, which is a really interesting spot in itself. Kind of like a bigger version of Jake's Hill. It just kind of goes up and down that whole area. I mean, there's similar stories of, I believe it was John Villarreal in the 90s, was hiking out there with a group of friends, and
Oh yeah, he got possessed by a wolf.
Yeah, he is believed to have been possessed by a wolf.
Yeah.
And,
or a wolf-like creature. We don't know what,
Exactly.
All books talk about that.
Right.
Unsolved mysteries. Yeah. When Bettina and Eddie came down, we took them out there and we showed them that documentary.
Wow.
Yeah, and people don't realize that. Like they think flatland. No, it's the hill country out there.
Hill country. Those are royal canyons out there. You can get lost out there, and in fact, one of my friends got lost out there. This was back in the 90s when it wasn't nearly as grown up now as it is. Or back then it wasn't, but he got lost out there. Now I got to preface this with they were taking shrooms, but they went out there one night and they ate some shrooms. But then the next day, he goes, we couldn't find our way out. He goes, we just kept getting deeper and deeper into the backbone until he goes, I was like, nothing looks familiar. And what was really weird was that next night, whenever they were out there, they were trying to find where they had camped and they had gone hiking is what it was. And he said that the sky, this was not when they were on the shrooms, because shrooms only last, people don't realize, they only last 4 to 8 hours. 8 if you're just like really, really like, but typically it's about 6 hour thing. And he goes, dude, this was like the next day and the sky was like purple looking. Now I've heard that before near the Haunted Valley where John Villarreal had his encounter with the demonic wolf thing or whatever. And I talked to some people that were locals out there. And this is going to be really weird too. But one of them was Scorpio. I don't know if he's in the chat, but his boss, whose also name was Eric. And Eric took me out there and we went walking around the Haunted Valley to almost to the exact spot where they think that possession took place. And it was weird. When we were coming back up the hill, the sky did have like a purple haze to it, which is bizarre because as soon as we got out of the valley, I didn't see that anymore. It was blue again. And so some people have claimed that. And David Weatherly, the author and researcher and great friend of mine, who I'm hoping that you and I and him can go and explore out there, he said that he would put that Devil's Backbone up against any place. I mean, he said, dude, Skinwalker Ranch, whatever. He goes, dude, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's honestly the first time I've ever heard about skinwalkers or anything of that nature. They were referencing the backbone. They were. And the thing is that the backbone originally by the Spaniards, it was called Espinas del Diablo. Espinas means spikes. Yeah. And then that turned to espalda, which is like backbone or whatever. And I mean, like there's insane amount of stuff taking place there. Like there's a Native American ghost that's been seen so frequently. They gave him a name. They call him Drago. And they say that people have seen him trying to corral their horses in the, like trying to corral the horses. And like, hey, whatever. People have encountered the Southern armies out there. The monk, that's another one. The monk, Spinoza, who's just a terrible person who kind of inflicted a lot of pain on the native tribes out there. And people have seen all types of, young people have run across a Native American boy out there as well that across on the highway that multiple people have witnessed seeing this. But again, like I was mentioning about the skinwalker stuff, that's the first I've ever heard about that. That's not far from where the Bear Man story came from. Yeah. That's right in that area. And not far from there is the, that's, they reference the Bear Man and stuff like that. And while I was doing the research on that, I actually found, I think is the best evidence for a bear man / wolf entity. To me, this is the best evidence because what it is just a few miles east of the backbone. There is literally a stone face carved into the limestone there of a wolf man. This is a fact. I have the image of it. It has fangs. It has glinting eyes. It was chiseled into the ground there in this area. And the settlers in the area claimed that was a warning about the bear man that was in the area. And the bear man was supposedly some type of shaman that inflicted a lot of bad medicine on the people in the area. And to me, again, this is the best evidence of that because it's literally written in stone. They carved it. They took the time to say, hey, watch out for this thing in the area. And again, it's a stone face that has fangs. I'm working on getting out there soon, hopefully. The only problem is that place is in the middle of nowhere near Bear Creek.
Yeah.
And what you got to worry about out there is the hogs. The hogs are massive. The hogs are like horses. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, they're huge. They are. There's a video of the picture of the. I don't remember the county. I gotta look it up. But there's a guy who's pictured with a gigantic hog that he killed right in this area. So that's really the only thing holding me back from going out there. Is
you talking about Blanco?
No. It's near Kerr County. It's not Kerr County, but it's near Kerr County.
Because I saw one in Gillespie too that was like they said it was over 20. They said it was 2,200 pounds. I don't know.
Oh wow! Right.
Yeah, they said that it blew away the old record. Like,
I would not be surprised, dude. Like, no one lives out there. All it is ranches.
That's all it is.
And I don't think people don't realize how much private land is in Texas. I mean, the thing with the Harryman Road, like, one of the things is there's a family that's owned a ranch on the majority of the side of Harryman Road. They've owned it for generations and generations. And we know for a fact that area is just filled with caves, caverns, all that. I would love to go onto that property. I just don't think that's going to happen. And I had mentioned being on the Harryman Road with the researcher who's kind of like underground. Excuse me. So that guy, he had actually shown me this thing that I was not even aware of. He goes, look, so we were in the area and we tracked a footprint trail to this T-post. It's a steel T-post, all right? Now, if you go to this T-post, it's bent like a banana. Like, it's got a huge curve in it. I don't know if you've ever messed with one of those T-posts, but they're steel. They're hard to bend. I mean, you got to put them in there, you need one of those post pounders. It's a lot of work. So he found this trackway leading up to it, and it's the bent T-post, and on the other side is this private ranch. So, I mean, that kind of goes to show you that there's a lot of places to hide out here, and especially if they have those purple fence posts, nobody's going to get access to that. That's not happening.
Right.
And when the in the Legend of, in Expedition of Brushy Creek, my latest documentary, so the Harryman Road had been closed for several months, and there's a lot of different rumors and innuendos about that. I personally have an account from someone who was riding a bike. I have the messages. He was riding a bike in the area, and he got pebbles thrown at him off of the Harryman Road. 3 days later, the Harryman Road was closed. It was closed, and it stayed closed for 9 months. This is a fact. And so while it was closed, me and my friend Aaron, we went out there, and we walked the closed Harryman Road. And I don't know if Josh, you've probably been through there at least once. It's kind of like a tunnel. The trees just go over the road. It's literally like just covered in brush. Mm-hmm. It's really wild out there. A lot of stories and stuff. But we're walking out there, and we get to the gate to where this private ranch is. And I'm telling him, this is the family that's owned this for whatever. We start getting hit with pebbles. And I have this on video. We get hit with pebbles. Out of the pitch black, we see pebbles flying at us. Like, what the heck's going on there? It makes no sense. I have that on video. It's going to be in the documentary. But along that same road, a woman had contacted me saying that she was out there jogging, and she saw what she thought was a giant lemur out in one of the trees. And she's like, a lemur? Like, what would a lemur be? It made no sense. Didn't make any sense. And I've heard that from other people. When she told me that she went to a book club meeting or something like that, and she had mentioned this. And when she'd mentioned this, another woman was like, oh my God, I saw the same thing along Harryman Road, a giant. It was really weird.
Wow.
And you hear about these stories. It's they're ongoing. It's a continuation. Even though it happened so long ago, you still hear about this stuff. And I really think it's just something's been here for a really long time, and it doesn't want to leave, I guess, or so. I don't know, or it can't leave. It can't leave, maybe, at this point. I mean, it's just a lot of really, really strange stuff. And the fact that it's all taking place, and like I said, there are places, other areas, like Skinwalker Ranch and stuff, which I do think there might be something going on out there. But here we have like the documented history of it, like people running into Harryman and crossing the road. We have a stone face carved into the ground representing a wolf being. Like, this is all factual. We have coyotes being turned inside out, tied to knots. We've got things being seen in the sky. Like, it's an ongoing thing.
And it's crazy because a lot of this stuff too is actually happening where people are living. Like, you can walk through Brushy Creek in 2020. I got a story out of Brushy Creek, and you were talking about 2020. And a couple of guys decided to go out there and just walk around the edge of the creek and just go, whatever. And it was a guy and it was his sister's boyfriend, and she was sick with COVID and they were recovering. So they decided to try to go out and, get some air or whatever. And they encountered this large black wolf-like dog. It was in, I think, June of 2020. And they ended up, it was over there off of 1431, or not 14, was it 14? No. What is it? What Palmer runs into? The Palmer becomes.
I think that is 14. Oh, Avery. Okay,
Yeah. So they were walking just right there, and there's like a residential area right there, and this large black dog was out in the water, and it stands up. It didn't get on its hind legs or anything, but it began to like kind of run through the water at them, and they were like, I think this dog is coming at us. And it was like they described it as like a large black Irish wolfhound looking animal, and blackish smoke gray. And they said that it just began to just run straight at them. And they had such a large lead on it that, they were weak and recovering from being sick. But they took off. And when they finally were able to get to there's like a little trail that cuts through back into the neighborhood. And then they went into the residential neighborhood, and then they looked back on that trail, and that wolf looking dog, whatever, was staring at them. Now, they didn't say it had glowing eyes or anything like that. And it was dusk almost, by the time this ordeal was over, it was dark. But the fact that they saw it, now that isn't the only report I've gotten of the black dog. And in fact, I thought about going out to Lawrence Cemetery out there here in Central Texas and checking out because the stories of the black dog out there that comes out of the cemetery. Same thing with Purgatory Road, the cemetery. There's a black dog. There's another one too. That's been seen. Do you know where that now there's like a Walmart there, and it's an old historic landmark. It doesn't look that spooky. And Eric, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's right there near Lake Creek. It's Lake Creek Shopping Center.
Oh yeah, I know that well. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right there, and there's like a Whataburger and stuff. Well, there's an old cemetery right there. And years ago, I was working at a place called International Residence. Now, here's something weird. I had been looking for my nephew for years. We had been trying to locate him because his mother kept moving him around everywhere. And I had a PI and everything on this, and they actually were living at that apartment complex. It's kind of off topic, but 2 or 3 times I stopped this kid and told him, hey, you're breaking curfew, and even went to knock on the door to talk to his mother, who would never answer the door. And she, finally I just gave up, and I would just make sure he would go. And so the only picture I had of him was when he was like a toddler. So I did not know that was my nephew that I had been looking for.
Wow.
And so I had actually stopped him and his friend Patrick a couple times and was like, why are you kids out so late? And, his mother was very neglectful. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up with him. She signed over custody to me eventually. But and it's so weird. Me and him always talk about that, how he remembers me as this, cantankerous security guard, always getting on to him about don't be out after dark. Yeah. This place is not a good area. And little did I know that was actually my nephew Zane. So, but anyway, that's kind of weird, neither here nor there. But that cemetery right there near that complex, years ago, back before there was a Walmart there was a story of a black dog that would come out of the back of that cemetery because there was nothing behind it. It was just woods. And then that was it right there. And there was nobody living up here. And there weren't these major highways. 183 was like this one lane on this side and then one lane on the other side. And once 183 ended, then you just pretty much had this, then it became rural country county roads. So that was actually like a little inlet there. And it was an old cemetery. And I got a story from somebody that walked through there back in 1958. And it was a friend of mine who told me that he goes, hey, I know this guy who got attacked by this, whatever. And it was his grandfather's friend. And he said 1958, he was walking through there and this large black dog came out of nowhere and bit him like 2 or 3 times on his arm and his leg and his thigh while he was trying to protect his girlfriend or whatever. The paranormal aspect of it was that when he began to like try to hit it with a stick and get rid of it, at one point it kind of like seemed to kind of blur and dematerialize and then kind of became flesh again. And when he told us this story, it was like really freaky. Like I was like, dude, I mean, the guy's name was John Fairfield or Mayfield, but he told me this weird story. And I thought, this is crazy. Like, but that's not the only story of a black dog from that cemetery. There was another one. This guy, he said, years ago I was homeless And he was my friend Clint's old roommate. And he said, and I was, walking through there and I was smoking, whatever. And he said, dude, and I thought I was like maybe I had hit something bad or something, because I was just smoking what we call swag or whatever. I don't smoke, but that's what they call it. He goes, and I see this black dog just kind of laying there up against one of the headstones. He said, then it sits up and it notices me. He goes, and then it just like darts toward, like goes toward the fence, jumps it. He's like, so I just take off running and I go into the Walmart parking lot and I'm looking back and it goes up to the edge of the parking lot and looks at me and then runs back to the cemetery. He's like, and then he talked to one of the security guards there who told him that on occasion they would see this large black dog kind of roam through the parking lot, and that more than once they went to look for it on camera and it wasn't there. Like the guard would see it, but the camera was not picking it up. So I don't know what that is or why that is or why that cemetery, that particular cemetery has the black dog, but there are multiple cemeteries that seem to, have these black dog sentinels or whatever they are, and they will attack you and they will bite you. And they've jumped on people's cars and done all kinds of crazy things. And Brushy Creek is no different. There's been 2 or 3 reports, strangely, because Eric was talking about nobody having died in 2020. 2 of the reports I got were from 2020. One was in late 2020 in like November, and the other one was in June. But both times somebody's seeing a large black dog in that same area. I think we lost Eric.
Well, sure did.
Yeah. Start talking about too much weirdness. People vanish. Right.
Well, I've been going back and forth here because we have tornadoes in my area north of me. And there's 3 confirmed on the ground right now. So I was just I had to black out and go look at the radar to check that. And it doesn't surprise me with this strangeness.
It is typical, though. Brandy's going to make it all about her and whatever.
Right.
Some tornadoes. Let's talk about that. Let's just change.
Let's just talk about tornadoes.
You being alive and all that.
Oh my goodness.
Tex says, sounds like I need to go camping at Brushy Creek.
Yeah, and it's a very large, like Eric said, that it's very long. It's a very long creek. It goes like for miles and miles, and it goes clear across Central Texas. You can even go all the way to Thorndale, which was something that I was talking about on the show last night. I did an impromptu show last night. It was like 2 a.m. or something.
I actually watched this morning at work. Yeah.
Yeah. And it ended like 4 or 5, I don't know how many, 400 people ended up in the chat, or 390 or something. But for, the middle of the night, that's not bad,
Right.
Yeah. So I just, I decided to do that. And so it was really, it was like we were talking about some of these reports that we had gotten of Bigfoot reports, mainly was what the show was about. And then Dogman. But it was so weird because one of the things that I was going to talk about last night was a Bigfoot report that I got, but Eric would be the guy to talk to about that because he has covered a bunch of reports. Fortunately, I don't know what happened to him, but let's see if he messaged me, but he has covered some reports of people seeing these things.
Wow.
Okay, so I'll be right back. But yeah, the thing is, when me and Eric hooked up, it was crazy. I was on a group. And he had said, I don't remember what group it was, whatever. And we started talking. And I said, you're looking into that? And so we were both kind of looking into the same stuff. And then we started talking about the LBL. We started talking about Skinwalker Ranch. And then Eric's like, I live right here in Central Texas. And I didn't even know that. And so we started talking about the same exact stuff. And then it was really cool because like Eric would start talking about something. I'd be like, yeah. And then I would finish the sentence. And then Eric was doing that with me because we've covered some of the same stuff, man. And it's like, it's really crazy. So,
yeah.
Were you, Eric, at the Dogman conference, this last one?
No, I don't think I had met Josh before then. It might've been shortly after that. I'm not sure.
We met about a week after the conference.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Been friends ever since, man, because he's been looking into the same, it's really crazy. Like, we're looking into the same exact stuff, like everything that we've talked about. Like he knows a lot of the same information that I know because I've covered so many different cases. And but there's so much stuff. Like he's covered lots of cases that I haven't. I've covered cases he hasn't. It's like when Aaron Deese wrote the book, The Dogman Triangle. Like I said before, we weren't stepping on each other's toes, man. It was just kind of like, well, you got that, I got this, you know. I know some of them, he knows some of mine, but it wasn't like we were, you know, on each other's toes, because it's like Eric's information, there's so much of it. And me and Aaron talked about this on the phone one day, and we were just like, dude, he was like, dude, there's so much of this stuff.
Much.
Like you can't even like,
literally,
like, you know, he spent his 60th birthday here at my house. And we just talked about Devil's Backbone for like 2.5, 3 hours. Yeah. And it was just that. And he was like, that's just one area of Central Texas. And he said, I would put this area up against any other place in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's weird. It's really weird because I'll be filming, you know, in certain areas and I'll get approached by people. And I want to say like 90% of the people have something they want to tell me. And once they realize when I'm out there filming, like probably one of the more recent ones was I was out filming along one of the trails in Brushy Creek, and hey, what are you doing out here, or whatever? And I explained to her what I was doing, and then she started to tell me about a story that she had experienced along the Brushy Creek. She was walking her German Shepherd, and it just paused, it froze, and it was looking forward. And then out of the brush, she says it was someone. It was a black figure. She says it looked possessed. It just marched through all the brush, like didn't care. Walked into the creek and climbed a huge bluff and just kept walking. And she said that was one of the creepiest things she had ever seen. She said the guy looked possessed, that he didn't miss a step or stride, that it was just so perfect that when he walked, she thought it was the creepiest thing. And one of the other things that I had been out there, and I was along the Harryman Road, and I'm out there filming or whatever, and then an older couple comes up to me and they ask me what I'm doing or whatever. And then I say, oh, you know, I'm filming, you know, paranormal stuff or whatever. And then the husband tells the wife, show him that green thing that you captured on video. And I was like, well, okay, that's kind of interesting. And she shows me, and it's in the Beast of Brushy Creek documentary, this green orb that looks like it's coming out of like a tree or the ground or something. And it's right along Brushy Creek, and the sun's already down. So it's like, what is this green? It's really weird and unexplainable, right along the Brushy Creek there. And it's just like 90% of the people that have come up to me have offered some type of weird story or actual data that I could look into. And that just kind of goes to show you almost, and it might have to do something with why the Alphabet Agency was out here. Almost every encounter that I've heard about the Brushy Creek has been aggressive, just like my own. My encounter was extremely aggressive. There were 5 of us big boys out there. We were in our 20s, and we were able to handle ourselves. We did this every week. We'd go out there fishing right behind my house along the Brushy Creek, be out there for many hours. And for whatever reason, this night, something charged out of the brush like an elephant right at us. Unexplainable. We didn't see anything, but we should have seen it, which even makes it creepier. Why didn't we see anything? We should have seen it. And again, like the stories I hear, one of my best friends, he recently had told me, it's in the Legend of Harryman Road, he came up with a story that was almost identical to mine. And I had never told him about my encounter. He had never told me about his. And his was very similar. He was along the Brushy Creek with a girl, and something came crashing out of the brush. Actually, prior to that, the girl claimed to have seen these, this is really creepy and weird, to see these little shadow people like sticking their heads out of trees and stuff like that. And this is the same area, the same exact area where I had talked to the construction workers, and one of the construction workers said he had seen a shadow peeking from behind a tree. This is the exact same area. 2 different people, never met, years apart, saying the same thing. And it was really weird because it was just so similar. And all the accounts I've heard were people getting chased out of the area. Jordan, the one I'm talking about now, he was aggressively chased out of the area. And he said that, it followed him almost all the way home. He walked home, and the whole time he's walking home, he's hearing this clicking, almost like a duck and dog mixture while he's walking home. And it just really freaked him out. And he got to one area where they had to cross, and then something hit the guardrail. Boom, just like scared the crap out of him. But, man, it's all really strange and weird. And there's just so many people coming forward with that. In the expedition Brushy Creek, probably one of the best encounters I've ever heard about sightings taking place. This woman actually got a visual. Not only that, but she was within a few feet of it. And I absolutely believe what she's saying because it's so reminiscent to what other people have experienced. And the way she goes into detail about it is just, it's incredible, super in depth. And it had a major effect on her life. And yeah, that was right here along the Brushy Creek. And I'm so happy that I was able to cover her story. And she believes that it has something to do with the cave system. She's a firm believer in it has something to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's every little bit of digging that I do, you just hear more and more stories happening here along the Brushy Creek. And I'm just kind of trying to document the best I can, not trying to go in any direction, just trying to document it and present it to people and let them make up their own opinions and how they feel about it. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, we're definitely going to have you back on. I mean,
yeah, we didn't even.
We're just like scratching the tip of the iceberg here.
We didn't even.
All kinds of questions wrote down here. So.
Yeah, you're going to have to come back because we're just not done. I've watched this kind of like a documentary. It's just like you're sitting there and you're just listening to all the facts, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't get to ask any questions either.
Well, yeah, I know we kind of went all over the place, and we didn't even get to the recent FOIA stuff that I did, which I can touch base on a little bit of that now if you guys want to check it out.
Sure.
I recently did a FOIA request on a Bigfoot call that happened in East Texas. It was in September 10th of last year, and I did a FOIA request, and I actually received the call sheets from the sheriff's office. I received the call that was made. I have that on my channel. Not only that, but the initial call was someone calling in to report they believed to have a Bigfoot on game camera, a photo of it. And I have that from the sheriff's office too. I got that from the sheriff's office. So
wow,
it's whether or not you believe in you believe in what's going on. Someone called in. They were so scared. And you have to hear the call, and I go into detail about it. But I spoke with the person and everything like that, and yeah, there is a, I don't want to say cover up, but there's something going on here, and I can go into detail on that about some national park stuff that I've done that's really interesting too. That is just blatant. There's one that was just blatant. I mean, right in your face. That happened in 2021. That is, when you hear about it, you're just like, wow, are you serious? Like, that's just, I don't know if you want me to talk about it now, I can or whatever, but it's
we're here as long as you want to keep going.
Yeah, no, I'll just give you guys I'll give you a little spark notes about it. It was in 2020. I have the Freedom of Information Act from this and everything, and this is really strange and weird.
Yeah, he's the FOIA king, dude. He's shown
I don't know about king, but
wow.
He gets after it, man. Believe me, he does. He digs into
on this FOIA request, it's like no other one I've received before. Because right at the top, it says, this has not been approved by a supervisor. Right at the top. This is what I'm getting back from a federal agency right here, okay? Wow. And so as you read it, all I had was a story. I had a summary about a group of people, campers in Colorado at a national park out there that had experienced, they had seen bone piles, and they also had claimed to witness a Bigfoot in the area. Multiple people witnessed this.
Wow.
So we don't know how this information got to the park ranger, if it was a call, if it was a eyewitness report, face-to-face report, email. We have no idea how this was reported. But what we do know is the park ranger in their report writes, a group of people witnessed bone piles and Bigfoot near Cleopatra's Bench in Colorado Park. And then it also says that it goes into detail about how to possibly expect search and rescue or anticipate search and rescue, kind of like almost downplaying them, like not taking them seriously, like, oh, there's people out here claiming to see Bigfoot. We might need to search and rescue them because they don't know what the hell they're doing. It seems like they were doing everything they can to take away credibility from these people. And then when you read the report even more, okay, so there was a summary report. Every report that I've received, FOIA request, has a summary report, which is just a basic incident, what happened. And then they have a general summary report, which is usually a page, 2 pages long, okay? This one only had the general summary. It only had the summary report. There was no general summary report. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? There's missing here. The ranger's name is redacted, which should not be the case. He's a public agent, so his name should be on there. Every other FOIA request I've done from the Parks Agency, I've had the ranger's name on there that's affiliated with it. So this one was really weird. Didn't have his name on it. And I got a separate email saying, okay, this is the reason why we don't have a general summary report. Listen to this. This is really weird. So the park ranger that this was assigned to was medically incapacitated to go out to the site and examine what happened.
Wow.
So we have no idea what took place here. The fact that this guy was medically incapacitated, that's your job, dude. You're a freaking ranger. You're supposed to go. If someone said they had seen a cougar out there, would it be the same scenario? I really doubt that. I think they would have gone out there. And maybe they did. Maybe they did go out there. They couldn't say what they saw. And the other strange thing is that they were smart when they did this, because they said that he was medically incapacitated to go out there. Now, them saying he was medically incapacitated, that falls into the HIPAA exemptions. Now, HIPAA is exempt from a Freedom of Information Act request. So that was very smart on their part. Kind of corrupt, but smart.
Right.
And so to me, that is the most blatant sign of a cover-up or hidden information taking place. Not only was this reported, but the ranger said he couldn't go out there to investigate a Bigfoot sighting that took place. I'm thinking he did go out there, or he did go out there, found something, couldn't report what he found, so they made up the story to where he was medically incapacitated.
Right.
There's a lot of that. The other thing is, like, people had said that maybe he was too scared to go out there. That's what medically incapacitated him, that he didn't have.
Or maybe he did go out there and like he had some sort of PTSD because something happened.
I've heard that theory too, but we all know the crazy thing is that this was not approved by a supervisor. We have no idea who this was. We have really no information other than bone piles were reported and multiple people had seen a Sasquatch. That's a fact. And that's the information that I'm getting back from the National Park Service. So, I mean, it's a little weird there, a little weird.
Yeah,
and that's just one of many. That's just one of many weird things that I've been getting back. And I kind of make a little announcement here that I'm actually kind of stepping back a little bit from the content creation side. I'll say that. I'm going to be more focused on filmmaking and longer form content, which is nobody's fault or anything like that. It's just kind of unfortunate that I've been kind of busting my butt on this stuff. And then I'll get people like the Bigfoot photo, for instance. That one kind of put a bad taste in my mouth because I had all the information, and a very long time researcher had reached out to me kind of wanting to latch on. And he says, hey, can I help you with this, or can we collaborate on this? I'm like, well, I don't really need your help. Why are you, And he's, oh, no, we can work together on this. And I'm pretty sure the reason is because they wanted to use that as some type of, they haven't done anything in 10 plus years. And so they're kind of saying, look what we found together. We found this, this guy did nothing, And the other thing is he's one of these guys that's a frequent, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but he's a frequent guest on a lot of these network cable shows and stuff like that. That is one thing you will never see me on. You're never going to see me on any type of network or anything like that because they are dying dead to me. They've reached out to me wanting someone using so much stuff. I've neglected all of that. And it's like I said, it's kind of really put a bad taste in my mouth because people have contacted me saying like, hey, we love that 911 call. I love that 911 call or whatever. I'm going to be a speaker at a Bigfoot festival. Can I use that? And I'm like, well, I don't know about that. You had nothing to contribute there. Right. You're just kind of using my stuff to get over for your presentation. And I didn't really feel comfortable about that. And a lot of that I've been seeing lately, and it's kind of unfortunate. Like I said, this one researcher who's been around forever, him kind of globbing on, it was just really kind of off-putting. And the way he did it was just, he did it secretly, and now he hasn't really mentioned it, even though he considers himself like a Bigfoot detective or something like that. And if he would have been included in the investigation, I think he probably would have blown it up like, oh, look what this happened or whatever. That's why people aren't, I'm kind of one of those independent type of dudes. That's why, very few people have heard of me. Josh is one of the few people that have. And I kind of do that on purpose. Like I said, my documentaries are out there. I produced them myself. I did all the work on it. And I'm never going to let anyone try to take credit off of, my work that I've done myself. It just doesn't seem fair to me. So like I said, I am going to be stepping back from the content creation side. I'm going to be focused more on the filmmaking stuff. I'm going to treat my YouTube channel more like a streaming platform as opposed to recently I've been treating it kind of like a social media site where I've been updating people on what I've been doing and stuff like that. And that's kind of where I ran into problems because people saw that and hey, what can I do to help you? Or, send me that. Let me use that for my presentation. I'm not inviting you to my conference, but I just want to use your stuff. That's just kind of like, all right.
There's a friend of ours, and Josh knows who I'm talking about as well. People like to use his stuff too. And here's the thing, people use his stuff and don't ask him. Be different.
Exactly.
Ask him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, these guys,
they say who it is Barton Nunnelly, and they do it to me too. Me and Barton were sitting there literally on the phone watching some fool use both of ours, just basically, and then they say stuff, and then they said Barton Nunnelly said that the devil came out of the ground and turned into a Bigfoot. Nobody's. What is this? I mean, it's like they just say, and they don't even read your stuff. And then one guy wrote a book.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say his name because I don't want to give him any credit, but I'd love to just out the dude because he sat right there and misquoted me in his book, and then he put down the episode numbers, and they were completely wrong. Of what he was saying was completely wrong, and he did an entire chapter of it. And me and my wife, somebody told my wife about it, and then she told me because I'm very busy and I don't have time to police the internet, but I'm sitting there looking at this, going like, "What is this crap?" I mean, I get quoted all the time, and people are at conferences and say, "Well, Josh Turner said blah blah blah." Right. Did you even listen? Or somebody told you, then they told somebody, and they told somebody, and then by the time they got to them, it's a whole different story. Yeah. But see, and Eric and I, we've talked a lot about this stuff, and I know these people that do these like globbing on things because they want to glob onto your work, and then they're like, "Hey, can I use this?" And at least they were nice enough to ask. A lot of times they just go and do it, and then it's all jacked up, and then it comes back on me that I'm full of crap, and I'm like, that person didn't even tell the story correctly, and then they got the names and everything, places, whatever.
No, it's what really kind of pissed me off was the guy who wanted to glob on had recently I had told him about the 2017 alphabet agencies involved. Okay, this guy calls himself a detective. Within less than 24 hours of learning about this, he makes a video saying that it was like a hoax. I'm like, are you serious? You just knew about it with less than 24. You didn't research anything. You just made you researched nothing. And then a couple weeks later, hey, can I help you with that FOIA request that you're doing? I'm like, dude, really? Come on, man, get out of here. And those are unfortunately, those are some of the gatekeepers that have been hanging around a little too long. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of these fests and stuff, you go to the cons, they have a lot of these same gatekeepers that kind of running the show, and it's the same old spiel. And they need some new material, so they'll reach out to people like me and Josh. It's kind of a sad state of affairs that we're finding ourselves in. That with AI and stuff, it's getting really ridiculous. So, like I said, I am going to be stepping back from the content creation side. I'm really more focused on the streaming stuff that I'm working on now, a book that I have also in the works. And it's not the end. I'm just kind of making sure that who I'm picking and choosing who I work with very carefully. I'll just say that.
Yep, that's smart.
Have to.
Right.
Yeah,
you have to at this time. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is. So, yeah.
Wow, it's pretty smart. Yeah, we'd like to have you back sometime. You're just a wealth of information. Josh said you were great, and
thank you.
Yeah,
that's been a good time. I really appreciate talking with y'all. And like I said, I could talk with Josh about Texas history for a long time. A lot of interesting stuff that we didn't even touch base on. But we'll have to save that.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate you coming on, and Josh, we're glad you're back with us again too.
Yes. Yeah, I just had to take a step back because
we understand.
What is life without all the haters?
Yes. That means you're doing something right, though. That's what it means.
That's it. There you go, Eric. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I want to thank Audacious Amber, Gary Spikes, Liberty 1776, Eve Error, Liberty 1776 again, Gary Spikes again, Hunter 1014, Spillin' Tea with Spunky Sparky, Bull Shizzle, I like that name,
I like that one.
Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and Flacco 1488. Thank you all very, very much. We appreciate each and every one of you.
What Gary Spikes had said something earlier in the chat about where he was from or where he lived, like close to something, and I can't remember what it is.
He said he was at a station at Fort Hood in the 70s.
Yeah. I thought he said that. I thought there was something else he said though.
Okay, I might have missed it.
Too.
It's a freaky spot. It is a freaky spot.
It is. There's a lot of weird stuff, and then that highway right there is very weird, very strange. Yeah. I've had people see some really odd things.
Yeah,
in that area.
Real quick, Wolf, you got a question from Bernard. He wants to know, and I actually want to know the answer myself. Question for Wolf: did the ghost you gave a ride to open the car door and get in? I wanted to know if the ghost could actually manipulate physical car doors.
Could manipulate physical things. He had an actual saddle in his that he put in the back of my bed of my truck, and he got into the bed of the truck. This is back in 1998. Of course, this is a long time ago, and we drove him to what should have been a defunct and dilapidated building that he claimed was owned by his mother. Turns out that was the original place. So, that to him may have been, that is a weird story. And my brother, and there was 5 of us that experienced this weird thing that happened. I don't even know how to explain it. I can't tell you, who that guy was or what that was. All I know is when me and my brother and my friend Big Rob went back up there, we turned out that he was deceased. And we gave the description of the man. And so years later, I go up there. This is weird. And I was talking to David about this that night that he was here. And it was one of the stories I told. And he had so many weird stories he's covered. And when we were talking about the Devil's Backbone, it came up, that Anthony was here with Tony and we were all talking about it. And I took them and my wife out there to the Devil's Backbone Tavern. And on the wall is a picture of the man that we gave a ride to. And we were like, that is very freaky. Yeah, CD was back there chatting with him or whatever. Wow. So that is a weird thing. I've never been able to completely explain that. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, that's odd. That's odd.
Devil's Backbone, they say it's the energy there that does it. I don't know what it is, but like recently on the show,
I said Central Texas. That's how you explain it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys, it was a show I did 2 or maybe was it 3 nights ago? It was like on a Tuesday morning or something. Mm-hmm. And I did a show and I talked about this skinwalker. I mean, I call it a skinwalker, but it was what looked like a coyote, like come up onto the curb. Like it's right there where you would get off to go to the Haunted Valley. That road right there. It's on Ranch Road 12. But this coyote comes up to the highway and then just decides that it's going to stand upright, and then it turns out that it's a man wearing like a coyote animal skin. Then it turns back down onto all fours, like he's jumping to all fours and becomes a coyote again. And they drove through it, the back end of this coyote, which became a coyote, and the people that were driving, they drove right through it. And they weren't even from here. They were from somewhere else, but they had come to visit, and they were headed to Blanco or the other side of Blanco. And what's crazy to me is, like, what was that? Like, was that the ghost of a skinwalker or a medicine man, or what was that? Because they drove right through it like it was an apparition, Yeah. So, they said it looked flesh and blood and it looked real. And they were like, it happened like so quick that they said that it was like it was a couple, right? And they said they couldn't stop. It was like, there's no way. Like, we tried to slam on the brakes, but it was like they were going, like 60 miles an hour or whatever. And it was just like, it came up like this, whoop, 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 and then it was like just so fast, like and it was like, and then they ran right through it. They were like, whoa, and then they didn't hit anything solid. Wow. So that happened right there at the Devil's Backbone. That's the kind of weird stuff. I've also had a story on that curve right there before you get to the scenic overlook. Some people saw what looked to be two really confused and out of place Confederate soldiers, which at first they almost hit them. They didn't come out onto the road. And they said that one of them even was holding a gun, like a musket, and they was like had a backpack on, and they thought, were those reenactors? Or, and I guess it could have been, but it didn't make sense to me because they were like right there on the side of the road, trying to cross the road, and they were like completely not aware of their vehicle until they were right up on it, which you would have seen the lights, right? And then it was like at midnight and it was pitch dark out there. So what the hell were these two guys doing dressed in Civil War outfits, wandering around the Devil's Backbone?
Yeah, that's one of the stories you hear about, though. You hear about the Confederate soldiers, even like armies, legions of them on horseback. Mm-hmm. I know there was one story where a guy he was a caretaker in one of the ranches out there.
Oh yeah,
and he was woken up by he thought it was an earthquake. Yeah, but it was actually hooves, and it was a Confederate army. He looked out of his window and he saw what he thought was a Confederate army out there. So yeah, those are some stories that carry a lot of weight out there in the Devil's Backbone, along with all the Native American tragedies that you hear about. Also, it's something happened out there. It's
people see Spaniards out there. They had German POWs that they worked to death. 275 people from the German POW camp literally died of disease, malnutrition, and they were being worked to death. And so nobody cared because, of course, they're the bad guys. So they put them in a camp and worked them to death. And so that place is just severely haunted. People see weird, German soldiers just wandering around because they still had them in their Wehrmacht uniforms. And they just left them there to basically die. And it was a really dark part of history all the way around. But you see Spaniards, you see Comanches and Apaches, you see all these weird people that look like frontiersmen,
Yeah, no, one of the craziest stories you talked about, you mentioned Comanches and Spaniards in the same sentence, so I got to mention this, is that one of the Comanches' great leaders was a man called Iron Shirt. And this was he was a mystic almost. Many people encountered him in battle. A lot of the Texas settlers and even the Texas Rangers had encountered him. And they would claim that they would shoot at him and he wouldn't be affected by bullets. He would be able to blow the bullets aside. Okay. This was his rumor that grew over many, many years. And in one battle, he was actually shot and killed miraculously. And when the soldiers approached him, they realized that underneath his buckskin that he had was a chain metal iron shirt that he had gotten off of a conquistador. Who knows how many centuries before that? Yeah. So to me, that was always super interesting that this guy had held on to a relic that he used for, battle, an ancient relic that he used for battle against, revolvers and stuff. I thought that was just super interesting. Yeah. Iron Shirt. Yeah. Great Comanche leader. So a lot of weird history. I'm obsessed with the Comanche people. They were just
they rolled this. My grandmother was Comanche, so yeah.
My friend David, he's half Comanche, and the things they would be able to do with a bow and arrow, are just insane. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. Wild stuff. Yeah. Horse people, yeah.
Well, we kept you up past your bedtime, Eric. He told us before we come on. I told him, I said, we go about 2 hours. And he's like, well, I do have to get up early.
I've been getting up early. Yeah. They're like, okay.
Well, you and I will definitely talk again soon, Eric, because we got business to conduct. So we got some things we got to do and deal with.
Definitely.
But for sure, it was good having you on. I told you guys he was good. He's a good guest.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we got Chris Garetano, which is, like I said, me, Chris, and Eric have a weird connection with that Chainsaw Massacre thing. That is a weird thing.
That is weird. That is really weird. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
I don't know. Sounds like we need all three of you on so we can discuss just that.
Yeah, that would be. I talked to Seth Breedlove the other day, and I think right now he's doing some kind of work on his documentary, whatever he's got, the new one he's got going on. He's producing a lot of stuff, but I'm going to do a show, and I not want to. It's going to happen. I'm going to get Seth, Chris, and I'm going to get Eric on, and I'm
Awesome.
we're going to talk about the filmmaking end of the paranormal and what does the future hold for the community when it comes to this, because you're talking about three guys. Tony Merkel, you could talk to him too. I talked to him, but he's in the middle of doing a production, whatever, this coming May. So maybe in the summertime we'll get it all together. But we're talking about people who are on the edge of the future, and what filmmaking is going to be like. And Seth, Tony, you, and of course Garitano, you all say the same thing. That you're not looking to be a part of any networks because you want to have control of your own destiny, and you want to be able to produce your own, whatever it is. And so I think it would be a really, really good idea to have them come on a show, and of course it's going to get, several 100 people probably show up. I'm just going to say that right now. And then there's probably going to be tens of thousands of views because you're talking about the leaders of this that are coming out in the filmmaking of this genre, and not this cookie cutter crap, finding nothing, or ghost time or whatever. That guy takes his shirt off, screams at demons, whatever. That stuff's got to. I mean, you cannot watch a rerun of that. Like, I've watched a documentary, I could watch it again. I've watched Chris Garitano, I could watch it again. I've watched Seth, I could watch it again. Same thing with Tony. I mean, I've talked to all you guys, and it's like the same. Like, you guys say the same thing. You want to have control of your own destiny. Somebody tried to buy my brand, and basically to me it was like an insult, and then I work for them. Here's the catch. If I just say, well, you know what, I don't like the way things are going, I don't want to be your slave employee, what ends up happening? Oh, well, you got a non-compete clause for 5 years, so you have to go away. People forget about you. It's not going to happen. So I told him, I came back and I gave him a ridiculous figure. And then I told him, I said, 1 year, I'll be gone for a year and I'll come right back. But other than that, I'm not doing it. And you better show me the money, because that money I'm going to take to build a bigger, stronger, better brand. But if you don't give me an executive producer position, I'm not taking it. I don't want to be a part of it. I had this guy message me the other day, and I'm not going to say any names, but he's from New York, and great. He's got a cool show idea. But there again, like Eric was talking about globbing on, I don't want somebody that's going to go, well, let me just take and exploit and use all of your knowledge and your work, and then you don't get anything, and then the network cleans up. No, thank you. It's not my thing, man. Not going to happen.
I knew what should bring me on, Brandy or Krista, whoever did that.
Yeah, surprise! He just popped in.
I want to go backstage and tell Eric and Josh what a great show this was. I did not want to go live. I was going to hang out in the back room. I wanted to be my Lord. I don't even have my traditional bandana on. Hey, Eric, man, this is a fantastic show. Josh, as always, you're fantastic. And for everybody out there, great show. And oh my God, Chris, I thought it was be the green room for God's
You better
sake.
put him in the back.
Yeah, great show. Hey, everybody, subscribe to the Blondes and the Booze, Josh Turner. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Since I'm on, I guess I must say, I'm 150 away from 4,000. Put me in the green room, Krista.
Okay.
So BMR, I don't know if you've met Eric. Eric, this is Boomer. I call him Boomer. This is BMR. He's got a show too.
Cool.
A little bit larger than Blondes and Booze, but he's one of us, and Tex is another one. You got to come on their shows, and you got to make the rounds, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You got a lot to talk about, dude, and you
I appreciate that.
The first conversation me and Eric had was like 3 hours.
It was long.
We both kept saying, "Hey, I'm busy, got to go," and then we just kept talking and it never ended, because it's kind of like with me and Barton. Like, we'll just talk for hours because there's so much information out there. I don't understand these people that they can't find subjects to talk about on their show, or they can't get reports. I'm like, they're everywhere.
Hey, Josh, that's so apropos. When I first talked to you, like some time ago, hey, BMR, I got to take 2 months of your time. It was about midnight. We hung up the phone at 2:30 a.m. So no said.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, because I can talk, but at least I have something to say. Some people talk ad nauseum and don't say jack.
Hey, listen, hey, Josh, when you talk is substance and is something worthy to listen to, like you do every day, every other day on your show, which is why I'm a fan and support JT, Josh Turner. And now, Eric, I'm now a new fan. So, hey, thanks for having him on, girls, and Josh for bringing him along.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic show. I was lurking, and
Thanks.
it was fantastic. Thanks.
Yep.
So put me in the green room. By the way, Bigfoot, Mr. Rob, 150 away from 4,000. Thank you. Get me out of here.
Awesome.
BMR.
Well, we do appreciate
Good book,
you
too.
guys.
He
We
wrote a really
really
good book,
do.
too, by the way.
Yeah.
I like this book.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. Thank you very much, though. Seriously, like we will have to reach out to you and have you come back on here and be a Mars show and even Texas too. Texas.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be great. Sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, just let me
absolutely.
know.
Yep. And once again, thank you, Josh. We definitely appreciate and love you.
Yeah. We got the guests lined up for Thursdays pretty much all the way through May. We got some good people coming on, friends of mine, people that are doing good work in this community, whether it be in the UFO alien abduction field or ghosts, or
Mhm.
Bigfoot, Dogman, or like Eric here who does it all. I mean, Eric has been
Yeah.
I was impressed when Eric was like, yeah, I got a FOIA of this and got a FOIA. I was like, dude, you're busy. Like you go in there and you go after it like a pit bull. And I admire and respect your research and your work. And
For sure.
I appreciate that.
Call
I
you a
appreciate
friend.
that.
For sure.
I got some big FOIA results coming very soon, so I'm looking to see how I'm going to be able to package that and get that out to everybody. But I think this stuff that I'm going to be coming up is going to be some really, really amazing stuff.
Awesome.
Just to give everybody a hint, it's about the Walworth County werewolf incidents that were taking place, the Bray Road stuff. I have been in touch with the Wisconsin DNR, and I should be getting those that folder within the next couple of days. So
Awesome.
it'll
Awesome.
be interesting.
For sure. For sure. Once again, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Tune in tomorrow night. We have the mermaid medium, Jessica Potter, and Rachel Marie coming on tomorrow night. We're going to talk about our event and stuff and just talk some ghosts. So anyway, good night, everybody. And we will see you on the flip side.
See you tomorrow.